I really don't know. Let's see here. Paul Revere and Mr. President in the same room. B. Hoff, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. G. West, nice to have you back. Millennium, nice to see you. Low Pro, Starlight, and Ann Palmer. That's lovely Ann Palmer. She's been upgraded. Lovely Ann Palmer. Mr. Moocher, good to have you here. And The Quick, nice to see you. And I'm running out of time here. I really am, but that's okay. And Jeff Steve Garvey, Sweet Donna C., good to see you both. Richard Elmore, Jeremy, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. The Super Chat is a great way to support what we do here on SOR, so thank you so much, Jeremy, and to everybody else tonight. Travis DeLuca, Science Bob, Carl Malik, welcome to the channel for your first time. We appreciate you coming on in. And we got 29 seconds. The gorgeous Oracles and Beyond, Sam Faz. Who else can we squeeze in here? Let's see. Oh, there's Sweet Donna C with a super chat. Thank you so much. Much love, Donna. Appreciate it. And I'll cut it off. I'll say hello to everybody else coming into the room as we go in the chat room. We're going to get going here in just a few seconds. Get your horns up. Get ready, because we're about to rock with Bumblefoot on Science Bob and Friends. Let's do it right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking down to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great edition of Science Bob and Friends as Dr. Bob McGwier, retired from Virginia Tech University, joins us to take a look at the scientific side of the supernatural and paranormal. Each month, Science Bob will bring in a guest with a scientific or research background to talk about the practical side of what we are investigating. Tonight's special guest, Jeremy McGowan. McGowan is a trained observer, investigator, and veteran of the United States Air Force. He built what Luis Elizondo calls the world's first mobile UAP tracker called Osiris. We're going to learn all about it tonight as we bring in the gentleman, Science Bob. Good to have you here, my friend. How are you?
Doing great, Dave. Glad to be here. Glad we talked Jeremy into joining us.
Well, great. Why don't you introduce Jeremy for us, Science Bob?
Okay, so Jeremy McGowan is someone that everybody who follows UFO Twitter knows about, and Jeremy has been increasing his capabilities, his technical capabilities, and getting himself involved in many, many, many different projects. But I'm going to tell you what, that sexy vehicle of his has really, really got me spun up. Because I'm an amateur radio operator and a developer of software-defined radio, cognitive radio, radar stuff. So that stuff really turns me on. And I just wanted to get Jeremy on here to talk about that and maybe some of the places he's using it and whatever he can tell us about his other activities. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it is an absolute pleasure. Been looking forward to this for a long time.
Jeremy, how did you get involved going from a veteran of the United States Air Force to chasing UFOs?
Oh, man, that is a story in and of itself.
We got time, man.
We want it.
We need that woo.
The Reader's Digest version, and then you can tell me if you want me to elaborate, is I had my own sighting when I was in the military back in 1995. and it kind of made an indelible mark in my brain that I could not get rid of. And then through a series of very strange and interesting coincidences and events, I ended up on a TV show with Lou Elizondo. And after that, it was just it became a passion project for me, because I learned very quickly that my belief, anyway, is that we're not going to get the disclosure that we're looking for from the U.S. government. So I started tinkering with things to put my own vehicle together and go get it for myself.
Okay, that was the Reader's Digest version. Go as deep as you feel like. Because, first of all, can you tell us what country the sighting was in?
Yeah, it was in Jordan. It was in Jordan back in 1995. And the story has been told, but I know that this is a lot of different demographic that I've spoken to before, and a lot of people don't know the story. So feel free to wave your hands at me and cut me off if I'm waxing poetic for too long.
No, go, man, go. We want the story.
All right, fair enough. So I was in the Air Force. I joined right at the very beginning of Desert Storm, and I ended up, my first duty station was Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina. And at the time, Pope was the most highly deployed Air Force base in the entire military, basically because we had the Green Berets, we had most of the Rangers, we had a lot of the training areas for the SEALs guys, we had the headquarters for JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. It was, the best of the best was there. I was not one of them. I was basically attached to supporting them. My job as a security police officer in the Air Force was to go where the JSOC guys went, but not as far as they would go. I would go to their almost their forward operating locations, and I would secure them and their gear when they were hunkered down, and then they would go past the line and go do the dirty work that those guys are really good at doing. So being at a very high mobility base, I was very accustomed to training exercises, no notice training exercises. We would get routine phone calls saying, hey, grab your bag, get on the plane, you're getting deployed. And normally what would happen is we would all run, we would get on a C-130, they would take off, they would start flying a pattern, they would take all our bags and they would dump them out on the floor of the aircraft, and they would count our gear, making sure we had our canteens and our ammo pouches and all that sort of stuff. And then if you didn't, you'd get dinged and you'd get reprimanded, and you'd have to go talk to the first sergeant when you got back and all that hoo-ha. But this time we got a call. We ran to the airplane, got on the plane, got airborne, and none of that silly stuff was happening. We learned very quickly that something was off, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And it was about 30 minutes or so, and we didn't feel that we were making a turn, because normally they would just fly us around in a pattern. And then once they counted our gear, they'd set us back down at home. But we weren't banking, we weren't turning. And it became evident pretty quickly that we were heading somewhere. And then a few hours go by, and we land at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. And once we got into Dover, we started transferring to, it was either a C-141 or a C-5. This has been, 25, 26 years ago, and I honestly don't remember. But we get onto this other transport.
And you were a little bit in shock.
Yeah, because, at this point in time, I didn't know what was going on. Nobody's talking to us. Nobody is telling us anything other than we now know that we're getting deployed for real. And, of course, this is right after Desert Storm had ended. And I had already served several tours over in the Middle East, and I wasn't really looking forward to going back. So we get on the aircraft in Dover, and we get airborne. And I had deployed with 9 other people. It was a 10-man squad that I was with. But when we got in that C-141 or C-5, I'm sorry, I can't remember, started looking around, and there was a whole lot of other folks there on that aircraft with us. And they weren't people that I recognized. And they were obviously from units that were operator status type units. And nobody was talking to us. Nobody would consort with us. Nobody would even pretty much acknowledge that we were on the aircraft. And we were flying for hours. And it wasn't until we were well over the Atlantic Ocean that the crew chief came down and started telling us exactly where we were going. And that's when we found out that we were going to Jordan. And at this point in time, I had served, like I said, several tours over in the Middle East. I had been to Kuwait. I had been to Saudi Arabia, Taif, all the hot spots during Desert Storm. But Jordan had never even been on the radar. It kind of forgot it was a country at that point in time. So we land in Jordan finally, and we get off the aircraft and we get sent to our billets. And I've got a neat little picture somewhere. I'd have to dig it up, but it was me and the rest of my squad at one of the billets that they put us in, which ended up being an abandoned building that used to be Jordanian officer housing, but it didn't even have windows in it anymore. It was basically just like four walls and a few cots in the middle of it. And we still had no idea what was going on. We were all wearing civilian clothes because, we just deployed on the run, and we hadn't been briefed. We hadn't been told anything. And the next thing you know, the guys come over to us and they split our team up, which was unheard of, because in the military you deploy and you fight with the folks that you train with. And these 9 other people that I deployed with, these are the folks that I had trained with. I had been in foxholes with them. I'd been on deployments with them before. We work with each other every day. We know how each other reacts. And to get split apart on a deployment was just very, very strange. And to this day, I do not know what the other 9 folks were doing when I got my assignment. But I got pulled one way. The rest of them got pulled another way. And I ended up being taken out into the middle of the Jordanian desert, way, way off the cantonment area of the base. And I don't know how many miles or how many kilometers. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it was a Jeep or a Hummer or what had transported me out there. Again, this was 24, 25 years ago. But when I got to the post, I was still under the impression that this was a giant training exercise, that, because everybody was talking about, being deployed on an exercise. But I got to my post, and the only things that were out there was one other person, same career field I was in, security police, and a big brown tent and a big large crate in the middle of the desert. And that was it. And, I look around and a captain comes over to us. Captain or major, I can't remember. It was brass. Comes over to me and this other guy, and he goes, "Okay, boys, this is your post for the next few days." No, okay. So what do we do? Well, you see that crate over there? So, yes, sir. Don't let anybody near it, and don't come near it. Okay. Well, what happens if they come near it? Shoot them. And it was just as matter of fact as that. And that right there was my first absolute proof indication that this was not a training exercise. Other than the fact that I was fully combat loaded. I had 240 rounds of 5.56 ammo, plus I was an M203 gunner, which is a grenade launcher attached to the bottom of the M16.
So that was your very first notice of what your rules of engagement were.
Yeah, and that was the only rules of engagement.
Wow.
Normally, when you get on post, they'll give you a manual, they'll give you a binder or something, and it has your range cards in it, it has your fields of fire, it has your rules of engagement, it has a copy of the SOFA agreement, the status of forces agreement. If you're in a foreign country, it has all of your standard operating procedures. There was no paperwork. There was nothing there. So it was me, this other guy, a big crate, and a tent. And we weren't allowed in the tent. And that was it. And it was standing orders: don't get near the crate, and don't let anybody else get near the crate. So keep in mind that I was a low-ranking peon. I was an E3, senior airman at the time. And I can't remember the rank of the guy that was with me, but I believe he was either senior airman or he was a staff sergeant. But, E4, E5 max. And we had no supervision. We were left out there and basically told to guard this crate. We weren't told what was in it. We weren't told why we were guarding it. We were just told to guard the crate. And to put it in perspective, the crate was not small. It was not something you could pick up. This was a giant wooden crate. It looked like something off the Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner cartoon that should have had, Acme weapons stenciled on the side of it or something. But there was no markings. There was no nomenclature. There was no placards or anything on this crate. And it was large enough that it could have contained a Volkswagen Bug. It was a very, very large crate. So, of course, with no supervision and being 24, 25 years old, you do exactly the opposite of what you're told. And I climbed on that crate. I laid down on the crate. I took naps on the crate. I peed on the crate. Just about everything that you could imagine that I wasn't supposed to do, I did when I was on the crate. Now, at that time, I was basically a chain smoker. I smoked probably 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. And we would work, 14, 16, 18-hour shifts. So I was smoking all the time. The problem is you couldn't smoke around the crate for obvious reasons, and for the fact that at night, especially, the cherry on the end of your cigarette would glow like a neon billboard on night vision goggles. And being in the middle of the Jordanian desert and not being able to see very far, I really didn't want to be the victim of a sniper attack. So I decided not to smoke around the crate. So I found a little sand dune that was probably about 200 or 300 meters away from the crate. And I would honestly walk away from my assigned post, climb up on this sand dune, and kind of hide my cigarette behind the sand and still be able to see the crate. And that just became habit, routine. I would be doing this all the time. And the guy that was with me, he smoked as well, so he started walking out there with me. And I remember this vividly, crystal clear one night. I don't know if you've ever looked through night vision goggles, but for the folks that haven't, when you look up at the night sky and imagine that you're in the desert where there are no clouds, it's just crystal clear. There's no humidity. There's no clouds. We were obviously in a restricted airspace, a no-fly zone. So there was no aircraft in the air, but you can see a million stars with the naked eye. It's just beautiful in the desert at night. But you take your night vision goggles and you put your night vision goggles on, and now you can see billions and billions of stars. It's like the entire universe just opens up for you. And you can see things, you can see constellations that you'd never seen before, patterns of stars that you've never seen before, all sorts of things. And it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. So I got fascinated by looking up at the night sky. And I would lay back on my back on the sand dune, smoking a cigarette with the night vision goggles strapped to my head, just staring at the night sky. And then I saw something that to this day, I don't know what it was that I saw. And I can't explain how it did what it did. I'm lying on my back, looking straight up at the night sky, staring through the night vision goggles. Now, keep in mind, you only have about a 40-degree field of view when you're looking through the night vision goggles. But when you're looking into space with these things, 40-degree field of view is still a tremendous distance. I saw a pinpoint of light that came from my 6 o'clock position, shoots up, top dead center of where I am, makes a 90-degree turn, and shoots off to my 9 o'clock. And it went basically from my visual horizon to visual horizon in under 2 seconds with a 90-degree turn in the middle. And when I say 90-degree turn, it didn't slow down. It didn't have an arc. It made a perfect, exact 90-degree turn without any visible depreciation in speed when it did it. And it blew my mind. And then it did it again and again and again. And I was watching this thing just repeat this pattern over and over again. And I took the night vision goggles off and I handed them to the guy beside me. And I'm like, here, put these on. And he's like, what am I looking for? I'm like, just put them on, man. I just put them on and look. He puts them on. He's looking up, and about a minute, maybe 2 minutes go by, and I don't see any reaction. Then the next thing you know, I see him, he drops his head and he swings it to the left. And I'm like, yep, He saw it. He takes the night vision goggles off. He hands them back to me. He reaches into his ammo pouch, picks out a pack of cigarettes, lights one up, walks back to post, and he doesn't say a thing about it. And that was it. That was it. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything because I couldn't go into the command post tent. I couldn't flag down the captain or the major or whoever was there because I had literally walked off post. So I couldn't say, hey, when I was committing dereliction of duty back there about 200 meters away from my assigned position, smoking a cigarette, I saw a UFO. So I couldn't say anything about it. And that was something that just stuck with me for years.
Was the effect of the UFO all visual, or were there other things that you have since remembered or felt at the time?
No, it was for me, and that brings up a distinction between a witness and an experiencer. I don't consider myself an experiencer. I consider myself a witness because I didn't really experience anything. I saw something, and I have no idea what it was I saw, but I didn't experience anything except maybe a heart palpitation or two.
Right.
But fast forward till about 3 years ago, let's say 2019 ish. I got divorced in late 2017, remarried happily since. Thank you. But in 2017, I just gotten a divorce, and I was at home a little while after that, basically having a pity party for myself about 3:00 in the morning, sitting on my sofa, and I turned on the television. A random TV show at that time to me came on. Turns out it was the history show that Lou Elizondo had, and I just turned on a random episode that happened to be airing, and I saw when they were showing a couple guys out in the middle of the desert that were talking about UFOs, and the next thing I know, all the memories started coming flooding back into my head about what had happened to me about 20, 24, 25 years ago. So I go to Reddit, and I sit down and I go to a veterans forum on Reddit, not a UFO forum, but a veterans forum. My goal was to use Reddit for their internet detectives and try to find the guy that I was deployed with, because I couldn't remember who he was. So because I wanted to find the guy to validate my personal memory. And they told me to, take it to a UFO forum. So I did that. The UFO forum told me to tell my story to TTSA, and I had never heard of TTSA before. So I basically copied and pasted the email that I had put on, or the post that I put on Reddit, shot it to TTSA. And then the next thing you know, about 6 or 8 weeks later, I'm getting a phone call from one of the executive producers of that TV show asking me if I wanted to tell my story on air. And then everything else just kind of snowballed since then. And now I'm sitting here talking to you fine folks.
There you go. Dave?
When you had that experience in the desert, were you only seeing a bright light, or did you actually see the shape of a craft?
I do not want to say that I saw the shape of the craft because I cannot be definitive in that. What I can be definitive on is that my night vision goggles were showing me a very densely illuminated pinpoint of light that was brighter in magnitudes than any of the surrounding stars. Like I said, we were in a no-fly zone, so there was no aircraft to confuse it with.
And doing non-ballistic motion.
Yes. And it was not a satellite, because satellites only move in elliptical orbits and in very steady speeds. This was defying all of that.
Wow, that's a great story.
Do you ever, as we got about 30 seconds left, do you have regret about that encounter, that you didn't speak up at the time?
I don't think so. I think if I had spoken up at the time, being 20, 24 years old, I probably would have been fed a story and probably believed it and then forgotten about it.
Well, I think we all been there. We've all had things happen that we want to forget at times.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Fair enough.
Yes, as the blushing comes through the camera here on our YouTube channel and Twitch, but our radio people can't see that, which is nice. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on right now because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and our special guest tonight, Jeremy McGowan. Osiris. What's it all about? What's it like driving a UFO vehicle? We'll figure it out when we come back on the Mighty SOR right after this. All right, we're clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, so in Desert Storm and Desert Shield and Storm, I spent a fair amount of time in Dhahran and Riyadh.
Bob, give me 2 seconds. Jeremy, I just want to remind you that during the breaks, we are live on YouTube.
Oh, sure.
And on Twitch.
You can hear us.
Yeah, so they
Absolutely.
can hear us.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Dhahran and Riyadh, and in the 90s, I spent more time in the Middle East than I spent in the United States.
I was one of the last guys out of Khobar Towers.
Oh, I believe it. Man, oh, man. I was going to ask you, were you there when they were bombed?
Yeah, I was in Building 134. It felt like a grand piano got dropped on my chest when that went off.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank God you made it out unscathed.
We lost 19 guys that day.
Yep. That's all right. He's buried somewhere in an ocean.
You know, that explosion, when that truck blew up outside the perimeter fence, the explosion was so large that the crater that was left actually hit seawater.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I like the Middle East, of course, but look, I didn't have the same restrictions you did as a civilian intelligence person. I got to go all over the place, so I could go have sightseeing tours when I wasn't working.
Now, I went scuba diving in places like Half Moon Bay, and also I had a lot of liberty because of the job that I did, but I have no love for the area. I have no love.
Jeremy, I got a quick question from our audience member G West here, who is asking any suggestions for night vision goggles to buy.
Yes, ANV PVS or PVS 14s. They're monocles, not the binocs, but they are monocles. They're not cheap. They're probably going to cost you about $25 to $3,000, but they are the Gen 3s. Do not get the white phosphorus. You will be paying extra for something you do not need. And the clarity on the green screens is actually better, and it doesn't mess with your night vision as much when you take them off. But the ANV PVS 14s, and you can get them from just about anywhere.
So I just want to say that having used, night vision goggles from the military where, I had two eye places, but a single element in the front so you could see well at night, and some other Gen 3 stuff. It's not as good as those things, but I have enjoyed both. Yeah. My Psionics Palm camera, that's number one. Pro, I have the Psionics Pro, which is close, not quite, but close to Gen 3. And now my Luna binoculars, which tripod mount, wireless recording, record onto a SDHC card. Those things are very convenient, and they are cheaper than these others. They're not as good, but they're very good. They're just not as good as these fancy things you're talking about, but they're good. These binoculars are spectacular.
I got to get some.
Yeah, and they're like $800.
Yeah.
They're not as good as the professional stuff, but they're good.
Yeah, digital night vision is good, but it does have limitations.
It does indeed.
All night vision has limitations.
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest. It's you're not going to be reading a book with any of them.
No, but the Luna has sensitivity well into the near IR, so that is a plus. And I love looking at the sky with those things at night.
Absolutely.
Well, I once stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, so fuck you guys.
What was that about no cussing?
Well, we're on break.
And
I was feeling jealous because I haven't talked for a while.
So you're a scuba diver, Dave?
No, hell no, man. I don't do that.
No, he's scared of sharks.
You kidding me? I'm a meal, man.
He has nightmares about friggin' sharks.
I got certified for scuba when I was in Panama.
Not me, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you guys do it.
Yes, I was in Panama at an interesting time in 1989.
I was there in 92.
Oh my goodness. That was interesting. Yeah,
Yep.
89. Whoo-wee, that was interesting.
Yeah, I was there. I did a lot of time at Quarry Heights.
Yeah.
Of course, I was on Howard, but I had the very unique distinction of being one of the last members of the entire United States Air Force to be mounted. I was on mounted horse patrol, and my job was to ride a horse through the jungles of Panama for 12 to 14 hours a day.
Wow.
Hold on, gentlemen. We're going to get ready to come back here. I want to say a big thank you to G West, Fabster, Bob, Deanna, and Jeremy Donna and Jeremy for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Big thank you to all the veterans out there who are tuning us in. And you always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio's chat room. The regulars who are here nightly, we absolutely love you. You make it so much fun. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Science Bob and friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is here, taking a look at the who, what, where, when, and why, sometimes how, as we skip the woo for the night to get into all the good, juicy stuff. And, of course, our special guest tonight from Osiris and UAPX, we have Jeremy McGowan. Jeremy, Bob, welcome back. Bob, take it away.
It's great to be here. And all right. So, Jeremy, look, there's a lot of tech in your Osiris vehicle. Before we go diving in there, tell us how you got the technical training and so forth. How did you prepare yourself for building such a vehicle? And what experiences can you tell us about that led you there?
Well, I don't know that I have any qualifications per se.
Of course you do. That vehicle's spectacular. So you've learned some things along the way.
It's been trial and error. I mean, honestly, that vehicle is held together with bubblegum, duct tape, and hope. Everything that I've done has come out of my own pocket, with the exception of the very first $600 that I put into it. I had a brief GoFundMe page that raised about $600 for it, and then I came to a personal conclusion that I did not want to ask anybody for money, because I was starting to realize that there are some people that are so adamantly passionate about this UAP topic that they would donate $10 to the Osiris or to whatever project, even if they didn't have it. And that might mean that this person's not getting breakfast the next morning. So I didn't want to be taking individual donations for something like this. So I pulled it. I shut down the donation page, and everything since then has come out of my own pocket. And because it has come out of my own pocket, it's usually kind of I follow the path of government contracting. You know, I award it to the lowest bidder, and if I can find a cheap way of doing something expensive, that's the way that I go.
There you go.
But
so just me personally. So I was I got I made everybody in my town angry by being on my father's CB radio. And so a bunch of hams there locally called up my dad and said, bring that kid over. We're going to make him a ham radio operator and get him off CB radio. Man, that was 1964. So wow. I've been doing radio and technical stuff ever since 1964, and it's just totally dominated the entire trajectory of my life. Yeah. So radio's my thing, and computers, but those were kind of the big deals. I was glad to be able to go on and go to school to learn the technical stuff behind it. But actually, I can tell you, between 10 years old and 18 years old, I learned through the School of Hard Knocks as much about radio as any trained engineer, as I built my own radios and so forth. And so you just learn that way. So there is not one thing wrong with learning by doing.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out the difference between, upper sideband and lower sideband and all the technical jargon, because this is not my wheelhouse. This is not where my technical expertise comes into play. So I'm glad to be building this relationship with you, because I'm probably going to be leaning on you quite a bit.
No, and I hope you will, especially. So look, I like the people at the Skinwalker Ranch, and I want to help them. And we'll figure out how to do that. Okay, so now you began to do Osiris. Tell us how the plan went, and tell us what you've done with it, and tell us something about what you hope to gain from the tech.
Well, the Osiris was kind of born out of just an odd set of coincidences. After I got on that TV show with Lou Elizondo and I told my story to the world, I started getting interview requests, and mostly from podcasts and folks like that. And I had gone on Somewhere in the Skies with Ryan Sprague, and then I got on Andrew Hall's podcast as well. And when I was talking to Andrew, he had asked me, and you'll appreciate this, Bob, I'm sure. He had asked me if I had ever heard of a well, first he had asked me a question. He said, "What did I think that ufology needed?" And I told him that I thought that ufology needs standardization in reporting and data collection, but I didn't know how to go about doing that. And that's when he asked me if I had ever heard of Skyhub. And at the time, I hadn't heard of anything about Skyhub, because I was never the UFO guy. I'd never gone down the rabbit hole per se. So he told me about Skyhub. And during the podcast, I've got two monitors set up, and I went over to my other monitor and started Googling Skyhub. And I think by the end of the conversation, I was ordering parts to build one. And I started building a unit, and I was building it here on my desk. And then I came to a realization that I live in Las Vegas. This is literally the brightest city in the entire world. And Skyhub was designed to be a static unit. And I didn't feel that placing the Skyhub unit in my backyard around all of these lights would probably be very beneficial. So I figured that it would be better to make it mobile. So I talked to the guys, and they said that, they hadn't planned on doing it, but they could help mod a few things here and there. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, hon, I'm going to start drilling holes in the roof of our family vehicle." And she just kind of looked at me, and I was like, it's just a few Ethernet cables here and there. It's just, some stuff that I'm going to be putting in the trunk. Don't worry about it. And my daily driver was this 1999 Land Rover Discovery 2. And that's exactly what I did. I climbed up on the back of it and took a Z-bit and started drilling holes in the roof of the car and running antenna cables and Ethernet cables and putting components of machine learning and AI in the back of this thing. So I've basically now got a full server set up with cellular Wi-Fi and just about everything else that you can imagine in the back of this thing.
So you're fusing multiple sensors and multi-messenger stuff. Tell us the sensors that are in the vehicle.
Okay, so as well, you're very familiar with Skyhub, and first, thank you for doing what you.
Let me tell you, Steve McDaniel and Corey and those guys, they did 99% of the work. So it's just, but look, I'm really glad you were able to use Skyhub as a jumping off point.
Yeah, and it was the basis, it was the backbone, it was the original, basically the OG of everything that I've done. Yep. So now outside of the Skyhub, obviously I still have the 1080p fisheye camera. That's my all sky camera that's on there, but I have since incorporated so much more. I've gone with UFO DAP as well.
Yep.
And with the UFO DAP system, I've got 3-axis accelerometers. I've got magnetometers. I've got, constant monitoring GPSs for time synchronization. Also looking for, things like time dilation if it occurs. I've got 2 different sets of software-defined radios and frequency spectrum analyzers. I'm also incorporating sound pressure level meters to look for infrasound, things like that. And I've even put in, borrowing from Jacques Vallée, with his theory of light communication. I have had 2 very high output full color spectrum LEDs mounted to the top of this thing that have pre-programmed flash patterns built into them. And then I've recently just built a little device that can take any form of digital audio and encode it into a laser beam, to which I can beam light, or a laser beam with digital audio tracks.
So are you're modulating, or you're on-off keying the laser?
It's modulating. It's modulating the laser diode.
Great. Very good.
Yeah.
So it's like look, people don't know that's you're using light, but that's the same thing as an AM radio station.
It is. But the beautiful part about it is the FCC does not regulate this.
No, they do not. And we can do lasers all over the place. Amateur radio operators have been doing lasers for a while, but now these lasers have gotten so cheap, it's really pretty ridiculous how cheap they are. And I really feel like, given the experience of the CE5 people, where they flash lasers and do other things, and whatever these things are respond in some fashion, that if we worked hard enough and got enough data, we could try to sense what if they're attempting an information exchange. So and then maybe go from there and build a common language. But of course, until people are collecting the data, we have no idea.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm looking at doing is 2 basic things with the laser transmitter. One is I have taken pi, the number pi, and I have taken each number 0 through 9 and assigned it a different musical note, but a synthesized note as a sine wave, right?
Yep.
So I've recorded 3 minutes and 14 seconds of pi being played in a musical note, with each note representing a different number, or each number representing a note, whichever one you want to look at it. Now I can project this through the laser, and if I am in a situation where there is a UAP and I've gone through all the procedures, I want to stop for a minute and say, don't shine lasers at airplanes. You will go to jail. You could kill people.
And they will get you, they will find it, and they will throw you under the jail.
Yes. And my procedures that I've developed in the OSIRIS is I have ADSB, I have MLAT, I have passive radar. I'm looking at, ADSBexchange.com. I even have the ability to go in and look at air traffic control radar. It's delayed by a few minutes, but I can go through everything that I need to go through to absolutely eliminate the possibility of that little white dot up there being an aircraft.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. So just make sure all of our audience members stay up with us. Okay, a while ago, the Federal Aviation Administration mandated that every commercial aircraft and most all military aircraft that are not doing secret missions, they have to emit a signal, and this signal they have to emit is called ADSB. So it gives information to you that's better than you get out of a radar, because anybody can receive it. And so these things transmit the position, the altitude, the tail number, the direction of flight, and other information.
Yep.
And MLAT is multilateration. So you can take these ADSB receivers that are listening to all these airplanes, and 5 or 6 folks in an area can work in coordination and get extremely accurate wide area coverage where nobody drops the data. And so you have no excuse for not knowing what commercial aircraft are over your head, because, I'll grab it during the break and show it. I have this wire antenna I poke up, and I can get, it's a coaxial collinear. But anyway, I can listen to all the aircraft out 300 kilometers from my house. There is no excuse, and it's easy. And the receiver is $25. You want to add about a $40 filter and amplifier, and then after that, airplanes are us. You can get them all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've written my own standard operating procedures that I go through all the process to eliminate any potential of me shining a laser at a civilian or military aircraft, because I don't want to go to jail. So the idea is, once I've eliminated the possibility of that little dot up there being a domestic aircraft or a military aircraft, I now have the ability to beam any type of digital audio encoded into a laser onto the surface of that craft. Now, my assumption, I'm operating on an assumption because I haven't been able to prove it yet. I'm assuming that UAP are probably so far advanced than we are that they have given up on standard radio transmissions. They're probably operating on light wave communication. So my hope is that they have some sort of receiver or are advanced enough to notice the fact that I've modulated a laser beam and be able to pick up the fact that, hey, there's something down there saying hi to us. So I've also set up a receiver on my transmitter to receive any type of signal that comes back in the same manner in which I'm transmitting it out.
Dave asked the question from Solar Warden.
Solar Warden wants to know, Jeremy, are you using PESA and or AESA radar type, or both?
I honestly don't know what those stand for, to be honest.
Neither do I. So you're talking about I've done work on radar and I don't know what it is. So at Solar, tell us what you can and we'll try to get the question in, because neither of us know.
I do not have. If I think he's hinting at the fact I don't have active radar on the Osiris. No. So I am in passive mode only. I
think the P means passive and A means active. Okay, yeah. So in those acronyms, but look, passive radar is more than sufficient for you to find airplanes and other things that are flying overhead. Now, the restriction is, since you don't want to transmit, you got to be near somebody that does transmit. So you need to be near a very high-powered FM station, television station, and so forth. And if you are, you can take 4 antennas and a thing that I'm happy to talk about that's just now coming out called Kraken SDR, and you can easily tune up a radar that will be passive, electronically scanned. Yeah, both Jeremy and I are using passive arrays, and they're arrays, and it's done automatically by a thing called Kraken SDR and software-defined radio that runs on it. And the signals bounce off the craft that come from the TV transmitter, let's say, and come to you. And since you've got multiple antennas looking, you can figure out the distance, the velocity, etc., and track it across the sky. And this is just a must now. We got to all do this.
I can actually set my antennas out probably about 100 to 150 feet away from the vehicle, and build a larger array around it. I carry enough cabling in the back to do that.
Yes. So that has pluses and it has minuses. The pluses are you get very, very, very narrow beams are possible, but you get fringes, and we need to do other things with these fringes. So if they're within half wavelength of each other, there's no fringe, but the lobes are large. So there's a trade-off. There's a lot to be thought about when doing this. But anyway, look, these things are going to be great gathering information about the movement of these things across the sky. So even if they're not in visible light, you still get radar off of them, unless they have stealth metamaterials on the outside.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the Osiris is a constant work in progress, because every time I go out somewhere and I do an investigation or I participate in an investigation, I learn the limitations of my gear and I start researching how I can compensate for that. And it's usually telling my wife that I have to use the credit card again, and and it's gotten to the point where I'm basically at a standstill now until I can run multiple investigations with what I have and really narrow down what works and what doesn't.
Okay, now let's not talk about a UAPX and let's not talk about Skinwalker Ranch. Let's just talk about Jeremy has gone off to someplace and he's turned on his gear. What have you gotten something exciting someplace you want to tell us about with your Osiris?
without divulging locations.
Yeah, we don't want. Well, I understand the limitations.
Yeah, I can say definitively that the OSIRIS has captured very, very interesting data that is currently being reviewed by 2 physicists and is being looked at as part of a larger data collection program that could be very revealing.
Yeah, we look, if we're going to find these things and not depend on government, we have to fuse the data from many different kinds of sensors. So at the end of the day, anyone with any knowledge will be absolutely convinced. I mean, look, if we can convince Mick West our data is real, then we will have won.
Well, when I was building the OSIRIS, probably about the second or third month that I started really, really putting things together, I had Mick West on a private Zoom call, and I basically asked him, I was like, what can I do that would make Mick West happy with the type of data that I collect?
Great question. Great person to ask.
Yeah, he and I went back and forth for probably about an hour on a private conversation, just talking about what I could do, how I could collect the data, what formats the data would be coming in, how I would look at redundancies and things like that to make him happy.
Great. Okay, so I don't know if you're doing it yet, but I think you're going to want to figure out some way to take your GPS receivers and automatically time tag all your data.
Yeah, one of the things that I would love to have, except it's prohibitively expensive on my budget, and I want to get two atomic clocks, and I don't mean the ones that have the radio frequency that talk to the time servers. I mean actual cesium type atomic clocks.
Yeah.
I want to get 2 of them because I want to leave one at home or at a base location for an investigation, and I want to carry another one in the OSIRIS and have it ticking so that all the equipment is picking up the signal from the onboard atomic clock, and I can synchronize that. Yeah. But I want the 2 of them because if there is an instance of time dilation or anything like that, I can measure the difference between the 2 atomic clocks, but they are prohibitively expensive.
You gotta love Fabster. Yes, we love to dork Dave out, Fabster, but I agree with you. So, my good friend Dr. Tom Clark from Goddard Space Flight Center was a very long baseline interferometry specialist, and he recently died. But we took data from dishes with really good microwave receivers on them. And we had hydrogen masers at every one of these things. And you want to talk about accurate, oh my goodness. But using those things, he would point the dishes up at quasars, which people can go read about on Wikipedia. And using the quasar signals from these widely spaced, very long baseline, separated antennas, he became the world's most accurate geodesist. He could detect movement of the plates that showed when El Nino was going to happen or was happening, because he could see the shifts in the volumes of water on the earth. So these atomic clocks, they're gonna do our thing. The other thing that's going to happen soon, not within the next 10 years, is we're going to get what's called quantum squeezed clocks, where things that are noisy now, and so they're jittery or whatever, that noise is going to go down by like 1,000-fold, and these clocks are going to be beyond accurate. And then we're going to be able to do all sorts of stuff over the next decade. So don't run out of want to go do it for the next decade so we can get all this stuff. Dave?
Well, I'll never run out of want. I just might run out of can.
Yeah. Dave?
Well, as we get ready to go to break here at the top of the hour, as we've got about 40 seconds left, I'm curious, and I would like to talk next hour, Jeremy, about the purpose of searching for UFOs.
Sure.
Because everybody seems to be trying to get to this race, and I'm wondering the purpose of it now. And I got to admit, I'm a little confused with the entire direction of ufology right now, and I'm wondering where Osiris kind of falls into that. So I'm going to get you guys to hold on here because we do have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Very excited to continue Science Bob and Friends into hour number 2 here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Of course, Science Bob, co-hosted with Dr. Bob McGwier, retired from Virginia Tech University, and our special guest tonight from the Osiris Project and UAPX, we have Jeremy McGowan hanging on out. We're talking tech. I have no clue what these guys are talking about. I'm just a radio guy, and they're geeking out on me. And I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll find my tech talk when we come back for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, we're clear.
Awesome. Sorry about that.
That's me too. I'm just so happy to have somebody to geek out with. Yeah, this thing and my Air Spy, my Spyverter and all that stuff. They're over here on this rack behind me.
Yeah, I've got the Hacker, and I'm running SDR Sharp with that one.
Yes, very good. Yes, yeah. People. So, look, in the 1980s, the guy I was telling you about, the astronomer that died, he and I are both ham radio operators. And we started this project to do digital signal processing and bring it into ham radio.
Sure.
And then we proposed to a company in Linwood, Washington, to do all the functions of a radio, single sideband, FM, AM, etc., in software. And we just called it digital signal processing radios. But it was software-defined radio.
Yeah.
And been doing that stuff since the late 1980s. And then Joe Mottola wrote a book, and everybody attributes the beginning of it to him. So it's really kind of invented at the same time. And Joe and I don't have any enmity because we founded Federated Wireless together. So the actual inventors of software-defined radio are still doing software-defined radio in companies. It's just now everywhere. Your phone is a software-defined radio.
Sure. Yeah. The thing I like about the Hacker is it's also TX.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the RTL SDRs, they're $29, but they don't transmit.
No, they don't. And you almost need an array with them to be able to get the bandwidth that you need to do any significant frequency scanning.
Yes. A few megahertz is the most they're really capable of. Yeah. Because USB 2 sucks.
It does. And I'm running everything through an old 2014 Microsoft Touch or Microsoft Surface.
Look at the look on Dave's face. What the fuck are these guys talking about?
If I didn't know both of you guys were married, I'd think you're both virgins right now.
Dave, we've got things that have blinky lights that might talk to a UFO.
Exactly. Not only that, if we see a signal, which we will talk about, that might be digital and might be packet, we can analyze it and then turn around and repeat it. Yeah. Like guys do with radars. They take radar signals and turn them around and repeat them and see if they can get a response. We can do the same thing. Yeah. If we have digital radio signals coming to us from interesting places, we can play games to try to get them to respond.
Well, not only sending the message back to them in the same frequency that they send it to us, but I could encode that in real time and beam it back to them on a laser, and I can show them that we can receive whatever it is that they're sending out to us, turn it back around and shoot it back to them.
But some places that we both know about, they're receiving stuff in the RF spectrum.
Yeah.
Not in the light spectrum. So somebody somewhere is trying to get somebody to listen.
Yeah. Well, I got to be cautious with my wording on that.
We haven't named any place.
Yeah. I have a sneaky suspicion, and this is just my suspicion. This is just me postulating. I don't know if the signals that locations are receiving in the RF band that may actually be a byproduct of something else.
Could be a large signal that's being non-linearly modulated down to into RF. It could be all sorts of stuff.
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of the RF signal that they're picking up might be like the 8th or 10th harmonic of what the actual signal is.
Could be. But if it is a harmonic, then we might see other harmonics. We can detect the multiple harmonics and see if it gets wider as it goes down, and we can say, okay, this is going to be down around this for the fundamental. But you can see them get wider.
Yeah, I think our tech barely does it. Mine doesn't do it, right. and humanity's tech barely does it. But we need to be looking in the terahertz range.
Yes, not much works there yet. And what does work there is, $1 million or so.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Well, my Oilers beat my Canucks 3-2 tonight to kick off the NHL season. So I can't cheer. It's a hard one tonight, but that's okay. It's a bittersweet.
So, Dave, what does Canada think about the Vegas Golden Knights?
I like them. Love the uniforms. I want to go to a game. I was in that arena the first night it opened for Guns N' Roses.
The T-Mobile?
Yeah. And I will never, ever in my life sit on the second tier again, knowing how steep that is.
Yeah, that's a heck of a fall.
Like if you fall and gain momentum, you are going over.
Yeah,
like it
16 feet per second, you're done splatted at the end.
Yeah. I grew up an Oilers fan, and because I used to cover the Vancouver Canucks, it kind of made me a Canucks fan too. So I kind of cheer for both, but the Oilers will always be my love. All right. 45 seconds. Big thank you to G West, Fapster, Bob, Donna, and Jeremy for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis on this show, and thank you to all our new subscribers checking us out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. We are here 7 nights a week for you. And, of course, a big thank you to all the veterans out there. You always have a safe home here at Spaced Out Radio to hang out and show the love for the woo. Our regulars, we love you, man. Thank you so much. 153 of you watching right now. We appreciate each and every one of you. We're going to get going here. Get your horns up. Here comes Bumblefoot.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on KPNL, TalkStream Live, and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do you got for us, Clam? Panophobia. Panophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Science Bob and Friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is with us. He joins us once a month to talk about not only the woo, but the who, what, where, when, and why, and of course, how, in breaking down everything paranormal and supernatural. Tonight, our special guest from Osiris and UAPX, we have Jeremy McGowan. Bob, I just want to get my question that I was going to ask right before the break. Jeremy, one of the things that's confusing me as someone who's keeping an eye on the entire UFO field right now is the purpose of trying to track these craft. And I come at it from more of an experiential side than I do a scientific side. And to be honest with you guys are blowing my brains out right now because I don't understand a hell of a thing you're saying. But that's okay. I'm learning much like everybody else. So my question to you is, with this technology that you are building with Osiris, and I mean no disrespect to it, but what is the purpose of it and the why do this when everybody seems to be looking towards the government to give us answers?
Well, it's simple. It's because everybody's looking towards the government to get answers, and
we're
they're
not
going to
getting
get it.
We're not
They're not
getting
going to get it. Yep, it's not going to come from the government. When I didn't get answers to what it was that I saw, when I couldn't get any explanations, I did FOIA requests. I did a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and it was stalled at every turn. It was denied. It was redacted. It was blank pages, and I gave up on the FOIA. God bless John Greenwald for doing what he does, because I wouldn't have the patience for it. But I've come to the conclusion that we have been lied to dramatically and constantly for at least 70 years by the United States government when it comes to the topic of UFOs and UAP, and I don't believe they're ever going to change. I think that, people are asking for public hearings, which is fine, and it puts a little stress and a little requirements on them and makes their job of obfuscation even that much harder. But I don't believe we're ever going to get a full story from any official government source. So I built the Osiris for my answers. But in the course of building the Osiris, I became very cognizant that I'm not the only one not getting answers. So I made a promise to myself, and I made a promise basically to the entire world, that the data that I collect would be given to the public. I'm not monetizing it. I'm not selling it. I'm not, putting it behind a paywall. When I get actionable data that proves something, it's going to go to scientists. It's going to go to the academics. It's going to go be put through a severe vetting process through peer review and most likely scientific journal publication. And then it's going to be data dumped. And everybody in the world will have access to the same thing that I had access to, but I want it to be vetted, because I don't want to release information to the public at large that is erroneous, that is confusing, or is without context. So I want to be able to give people answers as I find them, but not without verification. I want to be able to give them a cake and say, this cake is chocolate. I don't want them to have any questions about the validity or the veracity of the data that I'm giving them. So it's going to go through a rigorous process. But the reason that I'm doing it is because, it's got to be done. And I can't be the only one. I don't want the limelight. I don't want to be the only vehicle out there collecting data. I want 1,000 other people to get old Land Rovers and start drilling holes in the roof and doing this, because nobody can claim ownership of the phenomenon. It belongs to all of us.
So, and just as an aside, I went and had an experience with a well-known experiencer, and I had other things happen subsequent to that. And so I began talking and telling people what I had seen and done, and kept telling people how they were thinking about the government incorrectly, how things were worked with classification, and people just don't have like the everyday knowledge, and so they make false assumptions about how things work. So I kept straightening things out, and then I happened to see some stuff, and I talked about it. So I retired from where I was working in 2020 and signed off all my contracts, so I was read out. Now, my clearance is still good until June of next year, but I've had multiple occasions where people have talked to me about doing work, and then they run into a brick wall. And the brick wall is my file is canaried because I'm telling people about stuff those people inside don't want told. I am blankety blank angry because I saw with my own two eyes what I believe was the initial experimentation for Havana syndrome, and they won't let me work on it. I'm just telling you, it hurts the United States, it hurts the world, and it's stupid because I want to talk about UFOs when I haven't divulged a single piece of classified information. It's outrageous. So am I angry? I'm not going to do anything wrong, but I am determined to get my own data in any way I can.
Yeah, everybody should get the data because we're not going to get it from an official source. And if we do, we can't trust it because we know from history that the United States government, well, all governments for that matter, they lie, cheat, and steal when it comes to information that deals in things of national security. And you bet your bottom dollar that UFOs and UAPs are a direct relation to national security. So we're not going to be told the honest truth about it in any way, shape, or form. But if we get the information ourselves, these things are flying in public airspace. They're flying right over our heads. They're international parks. They're over our nuclear facilities. They're out in the middle of the ocean. They can't cover them all up.
No. So, and I just want to, I know this is a hackneyed old story, but almost the only involvement any individual ever gets with Roswell is a few-minute video or some silly TV show.
Yeah.
If you go read Witness to Roswell or some other really high-quality book, if half the stuff in there has truth to it, it was a massive cover-up. And the stuff that we have, stuff in those books that we just know, almost no one knows. I mean, I read Witness to Roswell, and I didn't know 90% of the stuff that was in there that is absolutely conclusive. There is no way around it. The military swept in, and they grabbed people's civil rights from them. They threatened them until they were scared for the remainder of their life to multiple generations because they wanted to cover it up. Now, everybody understands that was the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, and they were scared. But look, it's enough already. Yeah. We want our own data, and I and it's great to have Sky Hub and Mr. Ox doing all his great engineering and the other equipment you've got with the cameras in it and multiple sensors and your vehicle. These are all needed because we got to get around this.
And you know what you're talking about with the data interception and the capturing of civil rights and things like that. It's still happening. It's happened recently. It's happened to us. We've had our mail intercepted. We've had things taken from us. We've had security breaches electronically. And there's nothing that we can do about it because whatever's causing it to occur is a lot more powerful than we are.
I found this across my driveway in a tree. I did not put it there. And stuff happens. I mean, I've had stuff tampered with. I've had cameras put up. I have all sorts. It's just they don't want us talking about it.
Yeah, with our university partners, when we're doing research, we started mailing physical hard drives back and forth simply because the data. I mean, we're talking terabytes upon terabytes of data, and we can't. We transfer. We can't, Dropbox, that sort of stuff. It's just too big.
Jeremy, let's go with some audience questions.
Sure.
All right, let's get to it. Terry is asking, Jeremy, when is UAPX going to go public with their data?
God, thank you for asking this question because this is something that we get lambasted for all the time. UAPX has the same promise that I do about releasing the data to the public. The problem is we are a nonprofit. We are a non-funded nonprofit. So everything that we do either comes out of our own pocket, which is minimal, or it is funded by a third party. As it stands right now, every investigation that UAPX has been involved in has been third party funded. And when it was third party funded, that came with an NDA. And we have to abide by the NDAs. Now, each and every time we have ensured that there is an expiry on that NDA, and we have ensured that we retain the legal right to do the data dump and provide the world with all the data that we collected during these investigations. We just have to wait. We have to wait until that NDA is up or until a trigger clause is activated in that NDA, which we believe is probably the biggest one is probably going to occur early next year. And you will see not only our results, but you will see our raw data, our raw video, and you will be able to analyze it in the same way that we did.
All right, let's go over to Wesley here. Why are there not as many crashes now as there seemed to be in the 40s and 50s? Bob, I'll get you to start on that one.
So here's kind of what I want to what makes logical sense to me. And I don't have enough data. I'm just using my technical sense and technical intuition and say, when we wanted to build stealth aircraft and fly it near the borders of Russia and China, occasionally our stuff screwed up because we didn't think of something and they would get shot down. Okay. So say aliens began visiting here shortly after we blew up a ton of nuclear weapons and they want to know what the heck is going on down there. And maybe they don't have massive high powered radars. And so they flew over White Sands missile range or these kind of places, and these high powered radars interfered with their equipment and brought them down. Well, what do you do? What you do is, if you're a technological civilization, is when you screw up, you make fix-ups. Everybody follows Elon Musk now, and he regularly does things that at risk. They blow up, and he learns from the blow up. Any technological spacefaring civilization or transdimensional or however they're getting here, they're going to learn from their mistakes. And as they learn, they begin to figure out how to read and write and talk and listen to our stuff, and they prevent our stuff from harming them. It took decades, and now it seems to have stopped because they've learned.
All right, let's go on. Uncle Dale and his power stash down in Austin, Texas. And he's got a scientific background, too. He's asking, what does your machine do, Jeremy, and how is it new?
Are you talking about the Osiris in general?
Yes.
Yeah, let's assume that.
Oh, what does it do? It's an informatics research system that goes out and collects data, analyzes it through artificial intelligence and machine learning, eliminates the identification of prosaic occurrences of aircraft, birds, and bugs, and categorizes, classifies, and compartmentalizes everything else that is unknown for further human eye study.
Yep.
All right.
And it also correlates multiple different sensor data with the visual aspects. So I'm looking at readouts from the magnetometer, from the accelerometers, from the spectrum analyzer, from everything else that I have in there, and correlating it with the timestamps that I have on the visual representations from the cameras.
All right, let's go over to Joe. He is asking, but what are Bob and Jeremy's dream detectors?
Ooh, hyperspectral imaging.
Absolutely. Hyperspectral imaging and a gigahertz of spectrum recorded live, so you don't have to look at spectra. You can look at the actual time domain signal and see if it's information bearing or there are features of it that will allow you to detect things. So that, and you want the most accurate clocks and oscillators you can have. So this quantum squeezing stuff I was telling you about will make our radios lock solid on a single frequency down to a millionth of a hertz, and then and stay there, and you can phase synchronize the receivers and transmitters through multiple antennas, and you can add those signals up, and it eliminates noise that's independent between the two of them. So you get very, very high quality improvement in signal to the noise and interference ratio. You want to eliminate interference. You want to eliminate noise. So the signal comes up, and when the signal's good enough, you've got a detection.
Yeah.
And we just got to make our equipment better. So look, I want to have all these toys where they're high quality stuff and they're inexpensive. So in the end, when we get to the high quality and inexpensive with artificial intelligence computers that everyone can afford, I promise you, the government keeping this stuff a secret ends. It's over.
Yep.
All right, we got a bunch more questions for you guys.
Keep going.
Big Willie and his Power Beard, which is going to be officially sponsored by Mighty Moose Beard Oil soon, is asking, how will you go about bringing forth the truth without being labeled as a chill or a psyops within the community we know and love as ufology? Seems to happen every time. Love the work you're doing. Jeremy.
The easiest way to go about that is actually releasing the raw data. Every other person that has ever come out and been accused of being a shill or a psyop, they've come out with a statement without any factual evidence, tangible, that other people can review. So if I do a data dump and you get the same data that I use to come to my conclusion, and if you come to the same conclusion, well, then you're the shill. Right along with me.
Yep.
Shill. Not chill. Shill.
Yeah, but that's okay. We got what Big Willie meant, and it's a great question.
All right, let's go to Jules here, who is asking, is the special secret detection frequency in the radio wave band?
Those that we know about are in the radio wave bands.
Yeah. I'll go on record right now and say that I have been measuring signals in conjunction with what I think to be incidents of UAP activity that are coming in between 1.5 and 1.8 gigahertz.
So there's that, and recently, Mark Sims, who's a big CE5 guy, has taken amateur radio gear and detected things that happen when these CE5 craft come over, and you can blink a laser at them, and they blink back. So he got Whitley Strieber to go on Amazon and buy one of these things. And Whitley turned it to the frequency that Mark told him to, and he heard the signal without doing any kind of meditation or incantation. It was an amazing thing. You should have seen Mark Sims. Yes, and that was at 144.1 megahertz. It was right in the middle of amateur radio band. Look,
isn't 144.1 what the old wireless telephones that first came out in the late 80s would operate on?
No, I think those were. I don't think that was, because they're not allowed to, because that's the middle of the amateur radio band.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. You can't have those phones in the amateur radio band.
I will tell you, if you don't mind me elaborating a little bit, Dave, on the frequencies that I've seen things on, 1.5 to 1.8, from 1572, I believe, to 1610 is what our GPS satellites transmitted.
Yeah.
And I've developed a little bit of a personal, untested hypothesis so far that if UAP are transmitting or causing noise on the same band spectrum that our GPS satellites are on, I'm looking at this as, let's say the three of us take a trip to Albania or somewhere. One of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to stop off at their local version of a 7-Eleven, and we're going to pick up a road map because we want to be able to navigate around the country. Our GPS satellites are transmitting the logical positions of every square inch of this planet. They have gridded out. They are not only defining how we look at space, they are defining how we think, how fast our processors are, and how we measure time. So our GPS satellites are basically the 7-Eleven roadmap for our planet. So if a spacefaring civilization comes through and they pick up these frequencies and they have the ability to understand what it is, they know everything about us.
So in a standard GPS receiver, you can get down to accuracies of like 3 meters easily in just in a couple of minutes. But if you take 2 GPS receivers and you have them play off of each other, that's called differential GPS. Those things are going to get cheaper, and you can get down to accuracy in inches. I mean, It's just amazing.
Unless Russia is actively jamming you.
Unless they're jamming, and we want to get around jamming.
Yes.
All right, let's go to ufologist here, who is asking, what is Havana syndrome?
Okay,
Ooh.
so if you'll read the newspaper articles, you'll find out.
We got 1
but let
minute,
me explain.
guys. 1 minute.
So there's a radio signal being emitted, apparently, that causes brain damage, hearing loss, and other things in the people that work in our embassies and overseas. And there's postulate that bad guys are trying to drive us out of their countries.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yes, and I've seen it tested.
Okay. Quickly here, 30 seconds. What do you two brains think about the Galileo project? And if we got to carry this one over, we can.
I think Avi Loeb is doing a great thing, but Avi's principally interested in finding big rocks or whatever flying from outside of our solar system from things that are not our stars. That's principally what he's interested in.
All right, let's hold off on that, Jeremy. I'll get your answer to that question from Nicola when we return on Spaced Out Radio's Science Bob and Friends, as we continue on here with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and from Osiris and UAPX, we have Jeremy McGowan. We'll return with your questions. More science, less woo. It's the one night of the month we go this way, but that's okay. It's a great show nonetheless on Science Bob and Friends here on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, Bob, is Sharon still up?
No, she's asleep.
How long ago?
Oh, about an hour. Why?
You got other people in your house right now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because G. West said, did anyone else just see someone walking behind Bob?
It could be. Sharon could be up, or my granddaughter could be up. And the hallway to my carport is right behind me.
Okay, cool. Big J, how are you? Who else has arrived? Good morning, Tony Dewhurst and the lovely Carol. Let me just get caught up here, guys, because I'm way behind in the chat room due to the questions. Walker Dale, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. I will get to your question in just a little bit. Paradox Fossils, good to have you here. G. West, thank you again for your super chat. I will get to your question as well in just a little bit here, and we'll continue those on. And let's see. Bonjour, Jean-Paul. Nice to see you. And who else we got here? That's it. We're good. We're good. All right. Let's scroll back up here so I can get to the question. Now we can chill out, relax for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, if you see somebody walking behind me, let me know, because there's about 3 feet of space between me and the wall, and that would really freak me out.
Yep.
Science Bob, I got a very good reading today from Samantha Mowat.
I can't wait. Please call me tomorrow and tell me about it.
Yeah, I will fill you in on that. I'll call you in the morning after
I'm going to tell you, I just love how much Lynn is able to get her on Spaced Out Radio. Lynn's doing a great job of interviewing.
Lynn and her have really, really
bonded.
Yeah, I mean, way better than I expected.
Good.
Way better than I expected. So, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I believe you got to be as mean as Satan not to get along with Lynn.
Considering she is a Wiccan. Those darn Wiccans.
You know, she's just a nice person and very smart, very capable interviewer.
We gotta limit how much we say Lynn, because Fap in the chat room is still heartbroken that she got engaged to Dave Hurley. He's heartbroken.
Tough luck, buddy.
I know. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, we'll pick up with your take on Galileo when we come back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to have a say on that too.
Good. Go for it.
If you don't mind.
No.
Hey, it's your show.
It's your show.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm your monthly guest host.
Davey is asking, what's the record for the most in chat so far? I think it was 405 for Lou Elizondo and Sean Cahill.
Yeah.
And that's the record so far. We're at 171 right now, which is cool.
Yeah, it's good.
169 on YouTube, 2 on Twitch. Only because I have no idea how Twitch works. No idea. That, you know what? That is such a complicated, in my mind, I thought, I'm not technical. Go figure. But setting up YouTube is like running an iPhone, nice and easy. And then setting up Twitch is like trying to download iTunes and figure out that program, which is brutally hard.
Yeah, I'll put you in contact with my stepdaughter. She's a live streaming gamer that uses Twitch, so she could help you out with that.
Oh, I would appreciate that. I have no idea.
Now that you pointed
I
out,
don't either.
Now that you've pointed it out, I hear Sharon doing stuff behind.
Okay.
She's a night owl.
Sharon! Come on, your best Aussie. Come on.
Yeah, I hear her in the kitchen.
Well, if she could make me a sandwich, because I'm starving right now.
Oh, my God. I smoked a full bird and smoked a ham Friday and Saturday, and we're going to be eating on that stuff for 2 weeks.
Gee whiz. I had a bowl of fruit for dinner tonight.
Oh, lovely. Well, all the weight you're losing, I'm finding.
Yeah, well, I'm down 6 pounds. I'm pretty
What's your goal?
50. 50. One sec here, guys. Thank you to G West ×2, Walker Dale, Fabster, Bob, Donna, and Jeremy for the amazing super chats. Really appreciate the love and support of SOR. Here we go, guys, with second half of the show. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. Really appreciate earning your listening ears tonight. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Science Bob and friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is here for his monthly visit to talk about the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything paranormal and supernatural. Tonight, we are joined by special guest Jeremy McGowan of Osiris and of UAPX. And right before the break, Nicola had asked a question in our chat room on YouTube. What do you two brains think about the Galileo Project? We got Bob's opinion already. Jeremy, we'll start with you on this one.
I think it's necessary. I think the Galileo Project is absolutely necessary. I myself am a research affiliate with the Galileo Project, and UAPX is also involved with the Galileo Project. The difference being is the Galileo Project is, as far as I know, is looking at things in a little bit of an exclusive category. They are academic only. They're not looking at citizen science as a source of input per se, whereas UAPX and myself specifically, we are absolutely citizen science. But I think with the Galileo Project and the backing of Harvard, and they're starting after UAPX, they're starting after we're doing what we're doing. They can learn a little bit from us, and in turn, we can learn a lot from them. So I think that anybody, any organization, any group that comes together to study the phenomenon in a scientific and structured manner, I think it's necessary.
And they've raised over $10 million already.
See, I agree with you guys. I hope that Avi Loeb from Harvard does an incredible job with this, and I think it's been incredibly brave to kind of watch his his growth within this community to not be afraid and call everything as it is and the way he sees it scientifically, especially with Oumuamua, where a lot of his colleagues from the popularity of Neil deGrasse Tyson and others were really hammering him on saying, you can't call this a UFO, you can't call this UAP, you can't do that. And he was like, this is what the statistics show me. And they kept putting up the fake picture of the rock that was going through, and really we had no real photograph from space of the object. So I think it's very brave of him. That being said, where I draw concern is it doesn't take much studying to vet the people that you are involved with. I think the one name I will mention is from SETI and Seth Stoshak, who has been a complete adversary of the UFO community, even though that was his job to look for UFOs with SETI.
But we need that. We need. You
don't-
can't have an organization that operates inside of its own echo chamber.
I disagree with you on that. 100%.
I'm sorry, Dave. I totally disagree with you.
Well,
but
and that's fine and dandy. But let me explain why I disagree with that. I disagree with that because there's a difference between skepticism and there's a difference between railroading a project that you got nothing after 30 years when every other statistic is showing that your stats are wrong, unless they were hiding them. Okay.
The only defense that I can give is the Galileo project is not SETI, and Seth hasn't done anything against the Galileo project. If he comes in and he uses the scientific method and he uses his experience and his expertise and he pushes the project forward, I have no problem with him.
And he's a world-class astronomer. I mean, he really is.
I understand that, gentlemen, but he hasn't. I mean, guys, I worked for a megalomaniac in sports radio in Vancouver, and I can tell you this: that man was the most miserable person ever. We covered sports. Every dream job of every wannabe jock out there. I didn't pay for a round of golf for 10 years. And the reason why I'm giving you this example, I got into every free game, and so did he. We got press passes to everything. It was a jewel of a job.
Yeah.
And this man was miserable and conniving and arrogant and everything. And when I think of my personal opinion of Seth Stoshak, you have the best job in the world looking for anything anomalous in space. You're looking for UFOs. How easy is that job?
Okay, so you're characterizing it incorrectly. So
I don't
let me
think
characterize it correctly. No, let me characterize it correctly. They are looking for a non-random intelligence-bearing signal from another star system. They're not looking for UFOs in any way, shape, or form. They never have, nor will they ever. They're looking for some alien civilization around another star to put out a big, loud signal.
I get that. I understand that. But the fact that, and maybe I'm arguing my point to wrongly here, okay? And I'm willing to admit that if I am. But he has never been a fan of the phenomena that we know of publicly.
I agree with you.
And to me, it rubs me the wrong way as someone who is involved in this field on a minor level that Avi Loeb would even choose him for that.
Let me explain to you the things I dislike about Seth and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They are not being true scientists. No. They will not look at the data.
Thank you for putting it
They will not look at it. That is not scientific. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, this goes back to the idea that I said earlier. You can't operate a progressively thinking organization inside of an echo chamber because the ideas become stale. If you know that you're going to be putting forth an idea that is going to be criticized and thought of as being whack fringe science to the general public, then you need to have a little bit of that voice on the inside as a checks and balance system. Because if everybody agrees with everybody on the inside, you're not going to be as careful with what you put out. So you need somebody to check it, and you need somebody
Absolutely.
to argue with you on the inside.
And I agree with you on that 100%. Okay, but this field, we don't have a lot of skeptics. We have a lot of people who are trying to railroad their opinion into what the phenomena is. And that's the way I feel about that. Never mind some of the other players that are on that list, from mouthpiece scientists who are, kind of wishy-washy about the entire UFO field, and fake journalists and others. I don't think he's chosen, or he's checked a lot of resumes going into building his team. Maybe not the core team, but the surrounding associates. I think that's concerning.
So look, SETI has they have a funding problem. And so if all of a sudden UAPs come along and, hey, they're coming from alien planets and we no longer need SETI, whoops, they're in real trouble. So it's understandable for them to be very, very difficult about accepting evidence of aliens coming here, given their job is to look for aliens around other planets, because it hurts their funding. I'm just telling you, these are people being skeptical. And when they're speaking for that organization, you have to understand they bring biases.
Very true.
And let's look at the Galileo project as a project that hasn't done anything yet, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Seth hasn't screwed anything up yet.
No. And I think he'll be a valuable advisor to Avi.
And the fact that everything is going through scientific publication and peer review, it's going to take a lot more than one person to railroad anything in the Galileo project. Funding could evaporate and kill everything, but he's already got $10 million. It's going to be a while till he runs out.
Well, I think the National Defense Authorization Act, setting up the UAP office, is going to come with funding to do research.
Yeah.
And let's hope so. Let's move on, guys. Tony in the UK is asking, he says, "Good morning, guys. Have you heard of quantum UFO observation technique? If so, can you explain it?"
I've heard quantum put before anything and everything, and no, I can't explain it because I don't have a clue what it is. I'm just telling you the truth. I just don't have a clue what it is.
In that context, with those string of words to it, I don't know what it is either. I will tell you that we employ something called a quantum random number generator that uses a Zener diode to create a string of random bits. And we look at that through a fast Fourier transform to look and see if there's any non-random patterns that appear during suspected periods of UAP activity. But I don't know what you're talking about with quantum UFO observation.
All right. Walker Dale says, "Hi, guys. Do UAP emit a certain frequency, possibly due to their propulsion systems?" Jeremy, let's start with you.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know how to define their propulsion system, so there's no way to answer the question with a definitive.
But I think that's as good a guess as anybody can make. But look, it's just a guess. And the reason is something is holding those things up and not letting them fall to the ground. That requires exertion of some kind of tech, and it may have our frequency leakage. That's completely believable. But again, it's only a guess.
Yeah.
All right. G. West is asking, did you have to think a lot about what materials UAPs could be made of on thinking of how to track them, Jeremy?
No, but I thought a lot about how SAP projects are made.
Yeah. So exactly. The SAP projects with metamaterials that do stealth, I mean, those things are really close held. So look, there's only certain kinds of sensors we can build that use radar. We can't be worried about whether or not they have stealth material. We have to hope some surface on the object will reflect the signals that are coming to our radar sensor. We just have to hope. We build these things and we hope.
Yeah, we only have the idea of what is available domestically for us. We know what we build the SR-71, the F-117 out of. We know what the Aurora is going to be built out of.
And the B-2 bomber.
Yeah, and we can build our sensor tech to detect the most undetectable tech that we have. But it's impossible to build tech to detect something that we don't know what it's made of.
Right, exactly.
All right, continuing on here with our questions from our audience. Solder Warden is asking, Jeremy, Have you seen the infrared videos from the various NASA STS missions from the late 90s? Lots of weird stuff on there that was captured. Anomalous.
Yeah, no,
Anomalous.
I've seen. I don't know if it was specific to the infrared videos, but I've seen a tremendous amount of videos from the STS missions. The main problem that I have with them is exactly what I'm trying to avoid with the OSIRIS and UAPX is data dumping without context, because you can see a video and you can see a time and date stamp on the videos, and that's it. You don't have any idea what the focal angle it was, what the camera was, what the camera lens was, why they were filming, where they
were on the world.
Exactly. You don't know any of that. So it's literally data without context. And they are anomalous only because we don't know what the actual story behind them is.
And look, the space station and other spacecraft, they fart out gases to make themselves pivot. And when they do that, ice crystals come out. And look, it's just, if we don't have lots of extra information, it's hard for us to tell anomalous vehicles from ice crystals.
Yeah. Context and data is as important as the data itself.
Yes.
Okay, continuing on here, gentlemen, as we have Science Bob and Jeremy McGowan here on Science Bob and Friends. Excalibur wants to know, Bob, what do you think about the Jasons claiming Havana syndrome is crickets?
I don't know what that means. I know what the Jasons are. And if I ever happen to have been in the Jasons, I won't tell you.
Hold on. What is a Jason?
A Jason is a group of scientists that the government assembles to work on hard problems. And very famous scientists are members of that group. It's a secretive group. They have clearances. They get together in the summer and they work on a list of hard problems. So, but I don't know what is meant by Harvard syndrome as crickets. I just don't know.
All right, Jeremy.
Havana syndrome. Sorry.
You got a comment on that?
I know there's some debunkers out there that are saying that Havana syndrome is nothing more than mass hallucinations. And I think that's absolute bunk. I've witnessed it occur, or I've witnessed something occur that was, in my opinion, Havana syndrome in real time. And I can tell you straight up, what I saw was not bunk.
And we have PET scans of people's brains where the damage can be seen in the PET scans.
All right, Bob, let's get to EQA's question here, which is, did the military build some extra spectrum goggles that scared the crap out of soldiers?
I have no idea because I've never seen them.
Jeremy?
Or heard them. And I've been out a lot with the military.
Jeremy?
No, I've never seen anything like that.
Never heard of this.
All right.
I know what hyperspectral is. I don't know what extra spectral is.
Jesse wants to know, Jeremy, what about your comments on Twitter about what ancient tech is affecting Skinwalker Ranch? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, this is a belief. This isn't a fact. This is not a hard data point. This is simply a belief that I have based on some things that I've run across. I personally believe, and again, with the caveat, I cannot prove this. I do not have any hard-coded data to back this up as of yet. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the phenomenon that is occurring at Skinwalker Ranch can be attributed to a very, very, very old technology. I'm working on putting that together in a more coalesced story with some background on what the Earth looked like during the time frame that I'm targeting and where it ended up now and why Skinwalker. But the one thing that I will say is if you go back roughly 240 million years ago, Skinwalker was a beach on an island.
Yep. It was and there was a sea all around it. And look, even back into the 18th century when the Mormons all moved to Utah, there was all sorts of weird stuff going on with the Ute tribe and so forth in that area. So stuff's been going on there for at least 200 years. Yeah. And the fact that we now have these modern sensors picking up RF signals that are coming from some source that we cannot find above the ground says that something strange is going on there.
Oh, the other thing I want to say really quickly, Bob, is as Mr. Flugel verified on Twitter today, I did sign an NDA, but people are reading into that. People assume that because I signed an NDA that I've been on the ranch and I participated on the television show. There are more than one reason to sign an NDA.
Yeah.
So please don't read anything into that. I do not want to go into more detail until I am actually allowed to.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, Frugel is doing research. He also is decided for his own reasons to interest people in coming there by having the show on the History Channel. And all of those different contexts will play into the need for a non-disclosure agreement. So Brandon came on this program. Let me repeat some stuff that we know. He is taking $0 from the United States government for funding all these operations. This is not classified. Some of the people that go out there, like Travis, have security clearances, but they are not working on a classified deal while they're at Skinwalker Ranch. And I know that they don't have a skiff, so they're just not working on classified stuff for the government. That's clear. Go ahead.
I know what a skiff is. Finally, I got something here I could understand. I know
computer compartmented information facility.
Yes, I know what that is. So finally, I feel like I've arrived in this conversation. Oh, who's got an alarm going off there?
That is my home alarm, and I apologize. Let me kill that.
All right.
Well, don't kill whatever's causing
Men
it.
in Black are breaking into...
or maybe I should.
Men in Black breaking into Jeremy's house here as we're on Spaced Out Radio. No, I'm kidding about that. But, Skinwalker Ranch is one of those anomalies, and I think I finally solved it, and I've been nagging Brandon Fugel about it on Twitter. It's because he hasn't invited any Canadians down.
Yeah,
that's it. Once he answers that question, you need some Canadians down at Skinwalker Ranch to bring some beer, some donuts, and, of course, some aliens. And you know what? We're going to get stuff done there. I promise you. We're going to get stuff done there. It's the way it goes.
Just bring the moose.
I didn't realize how big the bull moose were until a week and a half ago.
Yeah, they're not small.
Saw two.
Oh, no, they're monstrous.
Yeah, monsters. All right, let's get to another question. This one coming from Sweet Tony D out of the UK. Bob, have you ever thought about starting your own TTSA-type group?
No. Look. Tom DeLonge had the support of the secret sanctum in the government, and look where it's gotten him. No, I wouldn't want to do that. And furthermore, I certainly wouldn't do it in the manner in which Tom did. His heart was in the right place. I think he wanted to do something, but he just came out and just raised these expectations to the tip of Mount Everest, and they fell down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. I mean, it's done wrong. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it.
I don't blame you. And I still do not believe the official narrative that Tom DeLonge set all of that up. That's way too complicated for rock star status.
No. He's already said he was given a collection of advisors. Some of them sat behind him on the pseudo news conference, which there was not a single reporter in the room, and they helped him set that thing up. But then the crap hit the fan when WikiLeaks published emails to John Podesta naming William McCaslin.
Very true.
I knew right then Tom was a dead duck.
All right.
I don't think he was given a set of advisors. I think he was introduced to his handlers.
Exactly.
Well, that's probably a good way to look at it.
All right. Solar Warden is asking, Bob and Jeremy, can you speak about EMF denial of access potentially being the source for the Havana syndrome?
Jeremy.
It's, we have significantly large crowd control devices that are designed as basically a radar emitter that can shoot out microwave pulses of energy that will penetrate the first top couple layers of your skin and make you feel like you're on fire. We have those. We've employed those. They've been around for ages. But denial of access systems, I don't think, and this is me thinking, I don't think are causing what we're seeing in Havana syndrome. And Havana syndrome is not just one thing. People are walking away from Havana syndrome with permanent brain damage.
Yeah.
They are losing eyesight. They are losing hearing. They are losing hair. They are suffering radiation burns. And, that's not mass hallucination, first off. But I don't believe that as denial of access, because of the technology that would be involved to create this, would be extremely visible. You wouldn't be able to hide a denial of access type of vehicle in the areas that people are suffering from Havana syndrome.
All right. We only got about 30 seconds. I'm going to hold off on this next question from Akryong, and I'm just going to hold off right there because, there's a good question. We got to get into that. We're going to continue with audience questions because they are still lined up like anything. Gentlemen, they want to talk some science with you.
Let's do it.
And so it's all good. And we're going to continue with that as we continue on with the hour number 3 next on Spaced Out Radio. Science Bob and Friends continues with Dr. Bob McGwier, Jeremy McGowan, and then at the bottom of the hour, we have the fedora-wearing John Hudson joining us for the unbiased UFO Report, Shirky Poo's News, and, of course, the Thought of the Day, a jam-packed Hour 3 coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
Okay, look, we really need Jeremy to tell us whatever he can about his endeavors. If it's almost nothing, it's nothing. But what kind of stuff are you building for UAPX? Not what you've seen, not what you've recorded, etc. What have your desires been in terms of sensors and stuff for UAPX? Because sure. I don't want you to divulge secrets. That's not why I know you can't because of NDAs. But whatever you can tell us about UAPX would be great.
Yeah, no, I can talk about UAPX. I just can't talk about our investigations that were third-party funded.
No. As I said, whatever you're allowed to tell, not covered by NDA, tell us, because this audience will be interested. Many of the members of UAPX have been on here.
Sure. Let's do it. Yeah, after the break, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll wait until after the break here and go from there. Big Willie wants to know Jeremy, if you eat breakfast foods for dinner.
I eat. I don't. Do I look like a guy that has walked away from a meal?
No, me either.
I'm not a big fan of pancakes for dinner. I'd rather have the ribeye or the T-bone and some mashed potatoes and green beans. But if somebody sticks a stack of baby stacks in front of me, I'm not going to say no.
I'll eat scrambled eggs and bacon any meal of the day.
You people are sick. Absolutely sick.
No, you know what's sick is Canada saying that you guys have bacon. You do not have bacon.
Call it Canadian.
Time out a second.
That is sliced
now the gloves are coming off.
Canadian.
Now the gloves are coming off. That's an American term, Canadian bacon. Us Canadians laugh at you guys down there. Oh, I'll get some Canadian bacon. That's a piece of bloody ham. Nothing to do with bacon.
So explain to me why, when I went to IHOP in Montreal and I ordered bacon, they gave me sliced ham.
Well, that's Montreal. That's not really Canada.
Yeah, they're French.
Yeah, but if you get a good poutine there, that's
my goodness.
I love people in Montreal don't particularly care for poutine that much, but I tended to love the stuff.
I am waiting to go to Vegas and find a restaurant that starts with poutine.
I worked for 3 months in New Orleans, and my daughter went to school in New Orleans. I love poutine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We have something similar. We just call it chili cheese fries. But
yeah, that's good stuff, too. That's good stuff, too.
That's really, especially if the chili's warm. Mm-hmm. Got to be spicy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got a habanero salsa in my refrigerator now that'll wake you up.
Bob, I got 8 ghost peppers sitting in my cupboard right now.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, my boss, my daytime boss, decided to surprise me one day. He goes, "I got a present for you because there's a beautiful farm south of us, about 45 minutes, and they have a Mexican restaurant in there. They sell all sorts of hot sauces. I have a hot sauce there that I got from there, a ghost pepper sauce that I haven't even opened yet, and it's sealed with wax." I'm excited to open that sucker up.
He said, I don't think ghost peppers are really Latin American. I think it's Asian.
It's India.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's still pure hell.
There's a farm in North Carolina that raises them, and I've watched their harvest. And these guys are wearing full-on hazmat suits when they're picking these peppers.
I'm sorry. 4 million Scoville will burn your skin.
Yes. Pardon me. My bag of peppers is Carolina Reapers, not ghost peppers.
I love Carolina Reapers. Look, the reason I like the orangish peppers, like habanero and Reapers, is they have by far the best flavor.
Well, let me make you some chili, Bob.
Come on.
I'll bring that up. Let me make you some chili. We'll throw in a couple of Reapers in there.
If Canadian bacon is ham, is Canadian chili like, I don't know, Wheaties or Sugar Puffs, or what is Canadian chili?
Chili? We
own Texas.
We have, well, I wouldn't compare it to Texas, but, we do have paved roads around here and this thing called the internet.
Mm-hmm. So you're Googling Texas chili recipes in Canada.
And we literally even have cell phone towers here.
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
I got sick overseas one time, and people from the embassy made me this yak stew that they swore would cure all my vomiting and diarrhea, but I had to choke down a bowl of this stuff. And I mean, it was so damn hot. And I'm going to tell you what, it killed every sign of that bug.
Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen, we got 1 minute here.
Awesome.
1 minute. And FAP here. Canada is all effed up, like trying to argue with a coked up stripper at 2 a.m. You ain't winning that one.
With a French accent.
You're an idiot, FAP. I love you. I love you. Big thank you to FAP and Aussie Rob, Major Lee, G West Times 2, Walker Dale, Bob, Donna, and Jeremy for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you so much for the love and support. It's a great way to help support us on a nightly basis. Also, a big thank you to all the veterans out there tuning us in, all of our brand new subscribers. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up or down. And, of course, to all our regulars, you guys are awesome. Let's make sure that we continue on for hour 3 here, everyone. Here we go. 3 seconds. Get your horns up.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go at the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Panophobia. Panophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Science Bob and friends as Dr. Bob McGwier, retired from Virginia Tech University, comes in to skip the woo, but go right to the who, what, where, when, why, and how of everything paranormal and supernatural. And our special guest tonight is Jeremy McGowan. He is from UAPX and his own Osiris program that he has going on. And gentlemen, we're going to continue on with a couple more audience questions before we get to UAPX. Acreon is asking, do you think we can unlock the secret of light in waveform, and there's something UFO related about its potential?
I think that humanity is capable of great things, and given enough time, we will achieve unimaginable results. I don't know if it will be in our lifetime, but yes.
So Richard Feynman won the Nobel Prize for developing quantum electrodynamics, and it is the best description we have of light and photons and the wave version of light. So when light is traveling through the universe unobserved, it's in a waveform. But the minute the light strikes a target, like a sensor or metal or whatever, it materializes and becomes a particle. And it can knock electrons out and do stuff. So that is the level at which our science that anyone can go and read about knows the deal with light. If UFOs are doing other things with light than that, we just don't have enough data to give an answer so far as the public is concerned. Because you wouldn't have astronomers and other scientists claiming that UFOs were nothing if we knew about this.
All right, let's get to another question here in regards to, well, Red Panda wants to know about a little bit about Hawkeye 360, Bob. And Red Panda's asking, what's all the Hawkeye 360 Chris Herndon science Bob's talking about? I am out of the loop.
Okay, so I founded Hawkeye 360 with Dr. Charles Clancy and Chris DeMay. And it is now got 3 clusters of satellite in orbit. There will be 7 more clusters launched on SpaceX Falcon 9s in the next 18 months. They're already paid for and the contracts are signed. These spacecraft are looking down at the Earth and trying to locate signals of interest. And they do location. They don't listen to your phone calls, but they see transmitters and they locate them using some really interesting work I did when we founded the company. So I had these ideas and they've turned out to work. Okay. Chris Herndon was Donald Trump's information guy, chief information guy inside the White House when Trump became president. Chris left the White House and became the chief information officer for Hawkeye 360, and he is also on the TTSA Board of Advisors. I have had a short private conversation with Chris. I don't know his interest in UAP and UFOs because he and I have not discussed that in any great detail. I know he's on the TTSA Board of Advisors. I know he worked for Donald Trump, but I just don't know how deep that connection goes or why he is interested in it. I just know that Chris is doing a good job as the chief information officer for Hawkeye 360.
Bob, that raises a question with me real quick, if you don't mind. What would be the potential of getting some sort of codified or contractual arrangement between UAPX and Hawkeye 360 for a data sharing agreement? So when we're on an investigation and we see something anomalous, we can pick up the phone, call Hawkeye and say, hey, did one of your 9 satellites pick up a transmission in this range, in this location at this time?
Okay, that can be done, and you can contact Hawkeye 360 and say, here's the kind of thing we're interested in. What kind of contractual arrangement can we work out? And I'm just going to tell you that right now they just went over $50 million in sole source contracts with the government and other people, and it is not a big company. So they are going to be working their tail off to meet
Sure.
those contractual obligations. So it's not that they won't want to, because they're willing to do a contract to do stuff like that. It's will they have time to do that work and fulfill the contracts
Sure,
that they
sure.
already have? Because right now, look, they're trying to make NRO and NGA really happy.
All
Fair
right.
enough.
All right, let's turn it over to you, Bob, for the remainder of the show here, and thank the audience for some incredible questions tonight for both you and Jeremy McGowan. But Bob, you want to get into UAPX here?
I do. Look, we're friends with lots of the people in UAPX. I mean, for example, Knuth and I are both members of SCU, and he and I interact with each other on social media. I don't know him that well, but I mean, we've had lots of members of UAPX on here, and we and our audience are interested in what they're doing. You now have an involvement with UAPX, and please share with us those things you feel you are allowed to share.
Yeah. So
how did you get involved, and what are you trying to do?
So to caveat everything else that I'm going to say past this point is I am speaking on my opinion of UAPX, my involvement with UAPX, and I am not speaking on behalf of the company. So any opinions or anything are mine and mine alone, and I do not necessarily represent the entire idea structure or directionality of the company. That being said, this is a wonderful group of guys with one heck of an idea that is coming through to fruition, and it's the same thing that I'm doing with the Osiris is going out and studying the UAP phenomenon. In the scientific method, analyzing the data and putting forth that information to the general public at large. That is the UAPX mission in a nutshell. But we're not just doing it with our own tech. We're spreading a very wide net. For example, let's make a hypothetical investigation for a moment. Let's say that we go somewhere on the West Coast and we set up overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and we identify something anomalous in the sky. We're not going to just rely on our own sensors. We have our physicists. We've got a plethora of sensors. We've got a tremendous amount of equipment that we deploy and measure things with, but we're not just limiting ourselves to that. We are also going to go and we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to call the Ernie project or the Soho project, and we're going to look at solar activity directly from the satellite source. We're going to call the muon detectors down in Antarctica, and we're going to try to corroborate data with them. If the Sophia flight happens to be airborne at the time, which is an airborne NASA telescope, and they happen to be flying and pointing in the same direction as we're looking, we're going to call and talk to them because we're wanting to correlate as many disparate types of sensor information that we possibly can, not only to prove what it is that we saw, but also to try to get an explanation as to whether it's a domestic and prosaic phenomenon or if it's something that nobody has the answer to. And we've done this. This is kind of a standard operating procedure for us. We're collecting data and we're validating it internally with our own devices and our own products and our own sensors, but we're also going outside of our technological comfort zone and we're talking to other organizations. One of the things that we did on a past investigation is we talked to NOAA, and we got NOAA to give us NEXRAD data. They had no idea why they're giving it to us. It was a personal favor called in by one of our guys. But we gave them the time and date and location and everything, and they were able to confirm some things for us. So we're doing everything that we can to get as many corroborating data points from as many different types of disparate sensor technologies as possible.
That's terrific, because I mean, a lot of people are aware of Chris Mellon's blastogram on the TTSA blog, where he griped about all these unbelievable billions in exquisite sensors that the United States government operates on behalf of the country, and there's no mechanism for gluing all that stuff together. And it's the way it's stovepiped, they're not even allowed to talk to each other. What you're doing is going around all that and doing it differently.
Well, it's not just doing it differently. It's not telling them what we're doing. Because if we call up NOAA or the NRO and say, hey, we're investigating UAP and we want to know if you saw an object in the sky at these coordinates at this time, they're going to go click. But if we tell them that we are a nonprofit scientific research organization that is looking at atmospheric phenomena and want to correlate some corroborative data, and we're looking for a favor to see if there's any NEXRAD data or weather satellite data or any type of other data that we can have access to that, you know, we can blindly match to what we've already picked up, they're happy to help.
It's great. Yeah, these multi-messenger sensors that are fused together, they are the way. It's the only way. No, everybody's sick of a piece of crappy video. But if you put a piece of moderate to great video together with 100 different sensors of all different types, and you get weird detections, we might actually learn something.
Yeah, and we're not photographically based. We use video, we use FLIR, we use IR, we use all the cameras, but that's not our primary focus. We're looking at the quantum random number generators. We're looking at the muon detectors. We're looking at all these other types of, you know, our frequency analyzers, everything involved. And then if all of those things go off, then we go to the visual. We don't go to the visual and then work backwards to the other sensors. We look for the truly anomalous, and then we go to the visual as backup for the data that we're capturing. Because, you know, let's be honest, with deep fakes, with horrible image sensors, you know, you would think that in 2021, our image sensors would be a lot better than they are now. You know, you can't trust what's on video. You can't trust what's on a picture. And to be honest, you don't know what the heck you're looking at. Yep. But when you have all these other technologies and all these other sensors that are corroborating what you're seeing on the video, then you've got a story.
Yeah, one of the things that is happening and will become a major boon, and of course it's got to be in the thinking of those in the government who are trying to hide stuff, is artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. Captured in ASICs, the little chips that go beside these camera modules. They're going to be able to completely stabilize people's shaky hands and be able to focus on an object that it picks out and says is weird and focus on it, and your shaky hands won't impact the image. They'll become nearly crystal clear. That's number one. And number two, because they're at the sensor, they're getting raw image. And the raw image can be run through a machine learning algorithm, which dramatically increases the resolution, called super resolution, as if by magic. And suddenly we've got unbelievable photographs and videos from handheld sensors. That is coming. So that's going to get better. But you got to do something besides video if you want to figure out anything about how these things work. Because they're using other technologies. They're not there just showing a light to make us smile. They're trying to move around and do things. We have to understand everything we can in observational science methodologies to figure out anything we can about maybe a thing that says, hey, they're coming, because we now know they have these emissions that we can detect, and then we can turn a camera on them.
Yeah.
Or we understand more about how the propulsion system works, or the anti-grav works, or whatever.
Or we identify a special access program that needs a little bit better security on
exactly. All of that too.
Very interesting, gentlemen. We got about 7.5 minutes left with you guys tonight. When you guys with UAPX came together to do this project, what was the sole purpose of trying to do it? We all hear about the Nimitz incident, and a lot of the members like Gary Voorhees and Kevin Day being involved with this. But is it to try and recreate that? Is it about to try and recreate this phenomena? Or is it more about trying to just figure out what everybody is seeing in regards to the experience?
Yeah, we're not trying to recreate anything. We are legitimately looking for techno-signatures for anomalous incidents that are occurring in our skies. If it happens to be the same thing that occurred with the Nimitz, so be it. But we're not limiting ourselves, and we're not trying to recreate or cause something to occur. We're simply trying to measure what already is occurring.
Yes. And look, if unless people are sound asleep and not paying any kind of attention, there are areas of our country and the world where these anomalous activities have a much higher frequency and they're regularly observed. And it seems apparent to me, and no, Jeremy's not telling me this, but I'm looking and I'm seeing that there's stuff going on off the coast of California, in and around Catalina Island, and where these naval exercises occur all the time. There's some stuff going on there, and we're foolish not to look if we want to learn what's going on.
Well, it's also the headquarters, in Palmdale for Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. So we've got to take into consideration that, for decades upon decades, the United States government has been hiding special access programs under the guise of UFOs.
Yep.
They've allowed us to believe that what we're looking up and seeing is a flying saucer when in fact it's some sort of weird experimental aircraft. That's not explaining all of the UAP cases, because I wouldn't be doing this if I thought all of them were that. But a large portion of what we do see in the sky is most likely us.
Yes.
Is that based out of Palmdale or Area 51 or Edwards?
Oh, it's everywhere. It's Dugway. It's Area 51. It's Palmdale. It's everywhere. I mean, you look at the Gulf Coast in Florida, down in Eglin Air Force Base, where it's the McKinley Climatic Lab and the weapons testing facilities down there. It's all of the largest areas in the United States that have history of UAP activity are near U.S. military installations.
I'll give you an example. So weird things are developed at Lockheed Skunk Works in Palmdale, and a place that they would go and test them out of view of the public and maybe some adversaries for, let's say, how easily they're detected by all sorts of sensors would be out at Area 51. I mean, it's just a great place to test stuff. So it's not that one automatically assumes it's aliens. They develop stuff for use by the U.S. government, and they go to these hidden away facilities behind closed doors to test the stuff to make sure it works.
And some of it may or may not be reverse engineered, but I can pretty much guarantee that a lot of it is inspired by.
Yeah.
So we may not be able to figure out how it works, but we can certainly try to replicate it with domestic tech.
Yep.
Bob, go ahead. We have 4 minutes.
Okay, so what are you allowed, if anything now, to tell us about your thinking about going on Skinwalker Ranch? Because we got like 3 minutes left. But do you have a timeline? What will Brandon and Eric Bard allow you to say?
Well, I can say right now that I would absolutely love to be able to take the Osiris and spend an extended amount of time with Skinwalker. I would love to be able to have the full team of UAPX off camera, not involved in a production, and actually doing science. I don't want to pause for effect. I don't want to have to turn in a certain direction to, make production happy, but I would love to have a working relationship to conduct legitimate experiment. Not that they're not doing legitimate experiments, but I would love to be able to work with them on an extended time frame, not inside of a production, and see if we can come to some sort of data sharing and science sharing agreement between Eric, Brandon, and UAPX.
Third party and independent corroboration of some events and some phenomenology is just how great science is done.
Absolutely.
It just is.
Absolutely.
Different labs do the same experiments, slightly different ways to make sure each of them does it right.
Independent verification.
Independent verification and a different context, a different set of views, a different set of eyes, different set of expertise. All of that's helpful. And that's exactly kind of what I was hoping you were going to say. And thank you. And I thank Brandon and Eric for okaying you to say what you have said. That's not saying you're going to do that, but you sure would love to do it.
I would love the opportunity to spend a long time at Skinwalker.
Oh, yeah. So, Dave, do you have any audience questions before we have to run?
Well, let me check here. Let's go to Spaghetti Lee. Palmdale area has a good-sized population. Wouldn't they want to fly secret planes in a less populated area like Alaska?
Yeah, well, but that's what Area 51 was for, and all the national laboratories places that are hidden away, like in Idaho and Pacific Northwest, et cetera, military bases that are like out at Guam or whatever. Yes, we have places that we test stuff that's not near populated centers, and of course, Nome, Alaska, and other places where we have big air bases, military bases. Those are great places to test. That's exactly right, Spaghetti.
The other thing is we also want to test our aircraft over populated bases, because if, John Smith and John Q. Public can look up and see the next stealth fighter, so can China.
Yeah.
Right on. Jeremy, I want to say thank you for coming on Science Bob and Friends with all of us. Tell everybody where they can find more information about OSIRIS and UAPX.
JeremyDMcGowan.com. You can find me on Twitter at JeremyUnidenti1. My email, if you want to reach out to me for any reason, is jmcrypt, JMCRYPT at protonmail.com.
Absolutely. And Science Bob, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Bob McGwier N4HY. On Facebook, the same thing. And my email is rwmcgwier@gmail.com for all public interaction. I also have Proton Mail, but I don't give it out much.
Yeah, I think we all have Proton Mail now. We just do. But guys, thank you so much for another successful run at Science Bob and Friends. Jeremy, appreciate you coming on Spaced Out
Anytime.
Radio for the first time. And
Been a pleasure.
Science Bob, it's always a pleasure to have you back on. We'll probably bring you back for the round table at the end of the month, my friend.
That'll be great. That'll be great.
All right, coming up
Jeremy,
next.
thank you so much.
Coming up next, we have the fedora-wearing John Hudson as we get into the unbiased UFO report. Shirky Poo has the news lined up. And, of course, the thought of the day. Spaced Out Radio continues with the final half hour right after this. Great job tonight, gentlemen. Great job.
Lots of great stuff shared. I mean, we can't go as deep as we want to go, but lots of great stuff shared.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I really appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate the opportunity, and anytime I get a chance to encourage other folks to get out there and start collecting their own data, I think we're going to make it a lot more difficult to hide what's actually happening
I'm sick
outside.
of hiding.
Yeah. Hiding.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I got to move on here because I got to get Stetson or Fedora John in. Still want to call him
Take care.
Stetson John. But, Bob, I'll call you in the morning.
I'm happy to hear about stuff.
Yeah.
Jeremy, see you.
Jeremy, talk to you later,
Enjoy.
guys.
Good night.
Anytime.
Take care, guys. All right, Science Bob and Friends, Jeremy McGwier. And you know what? What a great show once again, everyone. Wonderful show. Wonderful show. We love it. Matthew Riot, what's happening, man? And, yep, we're about to drop the gloves with Jeremy there about calling ham Canadian bacon. Nope. Not at all. Not at all. That's all right. That was a good show. Carbine's right. Thank you so much for that awesome super chat. I believe from Norway. Norway, if I'm correct. So thank you for that. And I apologize. We couldn't get to everyone's question tonight. But we appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you guys do. Justin S., what's happening? There he is, everyone. The fedora-wearing John Hudson.
What's up, buddy?
With his Lou Elizondo chin hair.
I think I had it first, though.
I know who you're being for Halloween. You got to gain about 200 pounds, though. Because he's a little ripped.
No. No, you haven't seen my Twitter profile, man. I already have a costume all picked out.
Let me go check here. Where are you here?
See that?
Hold on. Oh, yes. Very nice. Very nice.
I got the long purple coat and everything.
I can't say what I'm being for Halloween.
Not polite.
There's an idiot that runs around this studio every now and again named Elovni Volador.
Ah.
Mm-hmm. Terrible Times, how are you? We got 2 minutes, buddy.
Sounds good.
I better get ready for you here. I haven't even looked yet. Where are we here?
Oh, today killed me, man. Like I had to cut so much stuff out, and I still ended up with probably enough content for 2 hours, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just have to just briefly cover it, and then people can go over it in the notes. Too much cool stuff going on.
Right. Hold on. Why did that just... I hate when it does that on Facebook. When you hit the little arrow to move to the next picture, and then the arrow disappears and it closes the window.
So bizarre. So bizarre.
I don't know why that some idiot in Facebook land figured that they need to have those arrows disappear. Just leave them up there. Doesn't hurt anything.
One day when we're not on the air, I'll share some stories I have about Facebook internal issues.
Yeah. Yeah, Facebook went a lot like Microsoft. If it isn't broken, let's fix it anyways. That's my opinion.
I will say this. It's a very complicated beast. I will give them that, though.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. I believe it. I'm going to pig out after this show. I am hungry.
You were just talking about losing 6 pounds.
I know. I'm going to eat something healthy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, I lost 6 pounds. It's all about pork ribs. And
Trust me, I'm not running to 7-Eleven to get one of their burritos, which is fantastic, which I'm really craving right now. But anyways, thank you to Carbine's Right, Backspin, Aussie Rob, Major Lee, G West ×2, Walker, Jeremy, Donna, Science Bob, and Fapster for the super chats. Here we go with the final half hour. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the unbiased UFO report, the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Yes. Every couple of nights, John comes in here to talk about all the UFO news going on, and a lot of it tonight is surrounding Luis Elizondo and a major book that just came out from George Knapp, Colm Kelleher, and the predecessor to Elizondo at the Pentagon, a gentleman by the name of, I got it here somewhere. There it is, James Lakatsky, Dr. James Lakatsky. John, welcome back, buddy.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for sticking around. We do appreciate it. Tonight's going to be, at least for me anyway, a little exciting. Hopefully you guys enjoy it too. Yeah, so there's a lot going on, and we're only going to be able to cover it briefly, so I do apologize, but it'll all be in the notes, and I encourage you guys all to, research all this to your heart's content, because it's some fun stuff going on. So first off, what Dave's talking about is this, amazing book that just came out called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. And this book is, it's quite the book. So I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I will say this. I've only been able to read snippets of it. So, but essentially this is very much like what Elizondo talked about when Louis Elizondo talked about writing his own book, how he wanted to give you the kind of the inside baseball of what he'd experienced running ATIP. This is essentially his predecessor's exact same book, giving the inside baseball of what happened before Lou Elizondo took over. And so it covers some very interesting material. And just to kind of put out a beautiful teaser, one of the things it specifically talks about is stories that Mr. Elizondo told at a dinner table about the fact that he actually applied remote viewing techniques to save him from a very dangerous situation while he was over in the sandbox. So it's quite an interesting book, and I encourage everyone to check it out. It's fun stuff. Have you seen any of it, Dave?
I have read a few quotes on the side of it. The one thing that I'm very noticing that about this book, and I don't know if they're trying to straighten the level on everything or they're trying to create a little controversy here, but when the To the Stars Academy announced Luis Elizondo, we really were led to believe that he was the big man on campus regarding this phenomena. And what this book really states is that Lou was a major player in the game, but ATIP, the program that he ran, was literally below this group called OSAP that we've even heard about. And OSAP got all the funding. ATIP really didn't get much money. And, they weren't really communicating at all.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to interpretation, because that's not how if basically there's an interview that George Knapp did with two other co-authors that was released yesterday on Mystery Wire. I'll give a link to that too. They specifically talked about this, and Dr. James Lakatsky basically laid this out very clearly, and he's very specific about it. And basically what it was that OSAP was essentially one thing I'm blanking on is I can't remember if OSAP was under DISA or was under DIA, or if it was under I think it was DIA. Was basically under a generalized group in a way. And OSAP was the primary organization, as you said, the one that got the 22 million. ATIP was just kind of a nickname for it, right? And it wasn't like an official name of any sorts. And one thing he states very specifically is there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that the point of OSAP was to investigate UFOs. And he lays that out point blank in this interview. But the other thing he says is then at a later date, when that program got moved from its previous place into the office of the undersecretary, at that point, that program then took on the nickname as its primary name, and ATIP was formed in the office of the undersecretary. That's when Elizondo took it over, because he was a director in the office of the undersecretary of defense. And that program didn't have any funding. However, from my experience, let's just say from my personal experience with the government, I would consider its place within the office of the undersecretary of defense to be much higher up the chain of command than where it was when it was OSAP. Because under OSAP, it wasn't even in the office of the Undersecretary of Defense. It was in one of the branches. I mean, it was in one of the command sort of structures. And so essentially that's the whole reason why I'm excited about this bill, talking about moving it from the office of the Undersecretary to the Secretary of Defense, because that's a whole nother level up from where it is now, from the Undersecretary to the Secretary. And so to me, what level you're at means a lot more than whether you're funded or not.
All right, moving on. Lou also came out with a 5 pillars approach to trying to bring the UAP topic to the mainstream in a core presentation that he's released.
So this is, for those of you that have been following the baseball game closely, this is the presentation we've been waiting for that Lou gave at San Marino, I think it's pronounced, where he basically did that talk a while ago. And this is a presentation we've been waiting for. Originally, we were told that we would get a recording of it. I guess, I don't know, I haven't checked. I guess something went wrong with that recording. And so Lou basically got on with this UK group called now I'm blanking on their name. I apologize. I'm too excited about the AI stuff. But basically, it's called Disclosure. I'll post a link to it. I think it's like Disclosure Now or Disclosure. They're on Twitter, and I'll post a link to it. And it's actually not a web channel that I was familiar with. This is my first introduction to them. But Lou was on that web show today on YouTube, and basically he gave this presentation. And this presentation was super cool for two very specific reasons. One is, like you said, he basically gave the core presentation of what his pillars are. What he's been talking about for a long time. So he talked about how, the first step was legislative, the second step was executive, the third step was international, the fourth step was media, mainstream media engagement, the fifth step was public engagement. He talks about the achievements of the 5 pillars since 2017. And I mean, it's not numbered, and I'll follow this in my notes, but this is a hell of a hit list. If anyone asks you, what have we achieved in the last 5 years? This is just an itemized list of boom, 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 boom.
Go over some of those.
Things like Japan requesting for bilateral information exchange concerning UAPs. Congress mandated to a UAP report every 90 days. One of the largest collaborative IC virtual environments being created to analyze UAP data. The one I'm most excited about is the fact that what is the group that the I can't remember. I can't find the name of it right now. But basically, 2 academic institutions within the defense framework have started accepting thesis statements. Accepting theses for the UAP. So now we're actually having academic acceptance of UAP studies within the defense school framework. It's a great list to someone should make a poster or a T-shirt or something. And then he talks about essentially what they're looking for in the creation of a federal national laboratory that that can basically take advantage of all the different assets. And it's a really good, short, clean presentation. And I probably should have asked his permission first, but I'm quoting him and crediting him every chance I get. But basically, I took screenshots of the presentation and just put them together into a PDF document, just because I like to have the notes as I'm watching the presentation. And so it's a short little presentation. I'll provide a link to the presentation. I'll also provide a link to my PDF document. And, if you guys pass it around, make sure not to take the disclosure team's little logo off the slides, because those guys do deserve credit for being the ones that broke the story. But it's good stuff. And what it leads into is finally the AI stuff. But I'm sorry, I got really excited and kept talking, Dave. Please.
That's all right. Let's go into the AI stuff. What do you got for us there?
Oh man, this is so first off, let me just say that I didn't lead you guys astray in what I described before. This is just basically documentation of exactly what I talked before, but I'll go over it again briefly. So what this is, it's several slides that shows exactly how the software is going to work. So the first thing you see is an example case study, which is a rather poor quality video of an object in the distance. However, Lou does say that the real video was much clearer. They just had to down rev the resolution to put it to the presentation. And from that presentation, they pull out a still. And if you look at this still, man, it looks like a bloody UFO. I mean, it gets you right off the bat. I mean, it pulls you in immediately. And then on the next slide, what you see is the first stage that the algorithm goes through, the machine learning, or I guess we'll call it artificial intelligence, because that's how people like to name it now. The system goes through. The first thing it does is identifies anomalies on the ridge that shouldn't be there based on the foliage that exists and the location that exists at that place. It also then does an analysis of the object, and it finds protrusions from that object. In the next stage, it assigns probabilities to each of the objects on the horizon. So it says, I think that this shape you're seeing here is the tail of an F-35 Lightning, and I assign the probability of that prediction to 85%. This is likely the tail of a C-17 Global Master, probability 94%. So it not only shows you what these things are, but it gives you its confidence levels. And then it looks at the protrusions in the object and takes a guess as to what they might be. And then basically it crunches all this information, and it basically says, actually, it's a tent. And that's what it was. It was actually an army tent that had been put up on stilts. And so it's a beautiful example of how this is going to, because one of the things we have to start doing this community is failing fast. Once something is not, we can determine it's not a UAP, we have to mark it as not UAP and get it the hell out of the way and move on to the next thing. Because we spend, just tonight on another big show that probably some of you listen to, they had this big physicist on, right, and they spent half the show talking about the Tic Tac case. How long have we been talking about this case, right? We have to start failing fast and moving on, and that's what this tool is going to do. Now, one thing I just want to say really quick is that on the last slide for the AI stuff, Lou lists out the strengths and limitations of this AI tool. And I need to call out one thing that I think that with respect, Lou did get wrong, and that is that in the last item of the strengths, he lists it as being bias neutral. And that's unfortunately not true. Now, fortunately, he goes over at the end and talks about how important the data is you give it, how important it is what data you feed it and how you teach it. And that essentially kind of covers what he said. But what it comes down to is if you feed this thing the wrong data, you can give it biases. We've seen it. We've even seen racial biases show up in AI systems because of the way the data was fed into the system. So that bias neutral comment, that's only assumed if you are meticulously careful in the data you feed it. But he goes over the strengths and limitations of the tool. Unfortunately, the tool is not going to be available anytime soon, but he did say that there would be mobile versions of it. There'd be a desktop version of it. There will even be a licensable version of it for people that want to take the tool and use it for other things. And so this is a big project, and I'm really excited.
I can tell. You could barely get through this one. You can barely get through. John Hudson, the fedora-wearing John Hudson, with another great edition of the Unbiased UFO Report. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. Yes, the news is always changing. As we start off with a haunting of sorts. With Halloween just around the corner, it's time to get into the spirit by visiting haunted places. And in Ohio, locals didn't have to drive too far. That's just to Condé Nast Traveler, which shared the 32 most haunted places in America, encouraging a coast-to-coast tour of the most haunted places of the U.S. The number one place that is haunted in the U.S. for 2021 is, and where's our drum roll? The Ohio State Reformatory, located in Mansfield, Ohio. Opened in 1896, the Ohio State Reformatory is famous for its Gothic facade and ominous 6-story cell block. But its greatest claim to fame is when it served as the filming location of the Shawshank Redemption. Though the prison was shrouded in terror long before Red and Andy holed up there, the reformatory closed in 1990 due to overcrowding and inhumane conditions, but not before more than 200 people, including 2 guards, died in the building. Legend says that the ghosts of several former inmates still roam the halls, as well as an old guard who jabs people with his nightstick. There are various ways for visitors to experience the hauntings firsthand, from 2-hour guided tours to private paranormal investigations. How cool is that? I would love to do that one. All right. Now, if anybody remembers the movie RoboCop or Terminator or these projects by MIT where they got these robot dogs, well, this company here has decided to put a machine gun on top of one of these robot dogs, which looks exactly like RoboCop. Not the cop, but, some of the gadgets they had. I'm telling you, this is scary stuff. We're turning robots into killing machines, just like Sarah Connor told us not to. But how did we know? How did we know? Remember Terminator 3? How did we know? Or it was Terminator 2, pardon me. Right? The dog-shaped robot body that's been creeping its way into mainstream now has a beautiful machine gun put on top of it. That's thanks to SPUR, Special Purpose Unmanned Rifle. Yeah, it's pretty much carrying it like a backpack. I just don't like this. I really don't. Ghost Robotics teamed up with Sword International, a semi-automatic rifle company, to create the specialized Demon Beast. Yes, this is a hellhound in robot form. The Spur debuted this week at the Association of the U.S. Army's annual convention in Washington, D.C. The Drive reports that while the Spur is by no means the first robot dog the U.S. Army has experimented with, but it is the first to include a live weapon on its back. Not to be all doom and gloom on the main, but the prospect of a lithe robot dog, semi-autonomous one at that, with the ability to shoot a semi-automatic rifle, is downright nightmarish. Let's just be honest. This is not a good sign. I'm telling you, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 and RoboCop were prophecy movies, people. Prophecy movies. It's getting ugly. A tiny Tennessee town consisting of a home, 4 general stores, and a barn is being listed for sale with an asking price of $725,000. So if you want to buy your own town, it's not going to be that expensive. The town of Water Valley, Maury County, is being listed online for $725,000. It includes a creekside home built in 1900. This place is going to be haunted too. This is a tourist attraction here. Anybody else picking up the business idea with this? Who's got $725,000? Let's do it. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because, well, we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What technology do you think we have today that has come from aliens? Chris Holm, Velcro. No, that's Canadian, not alien. Kevin Day, toilet paper for sure. Of course, Kevin. Selena, Q-tips. Vincent, breakfast for dinner. Absolutely. It's garbage breakfast for dinner. Everything according to Jaretta. Tom Myhawk, fiber optics. Evan, my skeptic friend. Nothing. If anyone takes the time to go backwards and dig into research and development, everything has a history of how we did it. When we say aliens did something, it takes away our own provenance and ability. Night vision, according to Dan. Computer tech by Sparkles. Jimmy, from a different radio show, hops in. I'm laughing at this one. Street tacos and fiber optics. You got that right. Street tacos for sure, Jim. Dave, where do I begin? Computers, microwaves, cell phones, fiber optic cables, comm systems for faster than light, different DNA tech, anti-gravity, free energy, scalar tech, and many things that come from different quantum science. Okay. Gary, stealth technology. William, basic plumbing, saves more lives daily than we truly know. Deb, cloaking tech. Deb, miniaturization. Darcy, night vision. Andy, Valiant Thor brought us the vinyl record player and the microwave oven. We'll leave it right there. as we say thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. Thank you to Shirky Poo's News, John Hudson for the UFO Report, and Science Bob and Jeremy McGowan for Science Bob and Friends. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.